Standing, if you want to go back and view, you can go on YouTube and still view day one, which was yesterday. So tonight will be very similar to last night, except we're all covering all different products. Tonight we're going to cover our rotary rakes. We've got Gene and Colin here. They're going to do our round balers. Then we'll do large square balers, our big pack last. Covering 3 segments tonight, or 3 product segments, and we're hoping each product segment takes anywhere from 30 to 45 minutes. So if you are watching and you would just tuned in for big packs, that's going to be a little bit later on this evening. So if you need to go grab a bite or whatever, you can do that. Of course, we'd much prefer if you just stayed with us. But that's kind of how we're going to do the evening tonight. I do want to mention to you that you can register for a Kron discount coupon. So if you're here, if you're viewing the event, there should be a link in the comments section, I think, where you can actually go register for the coupon, and it's good until January 31st, I think. It should be printed on the coupon, so don't hold me to that if I'm wrong, but I think that's right. January 31st, and it's a good way if you're in the market, maybe you need something for year end, or maybe you're looking for purchase in 23 and you're willing to do that early. You can use that coupon, take advantage of attending here, and save yourself some money on a Kron purchase. Trail, I think you're going to let them know that we really want them to join with us and interact with us. So you tell them how they can do that and maybe some incentive.
Absolutely. And one of the reasons we did this live is so we could have interaction with you guys. We appreciate your comments. We encourage your questions. It just makes the show go a lot smoother for us if we actually have communication with you guys. So we've got a little promotion going for everyone that submits a question, and there's 2 ways you can do it. You can leave a comment on the YouTube page, or if you've got email, if you don't want to get on YouTube, you can send an email question via marketing@kronena.com, and we'll put a link in the YouTube comments so you'll know where to send the email. But what we're going to do, if anyone sends in a question, we need you to put your email address or some way to get in touch with you. But what we're going to do is we're going to send you we're going to send you guys a Kron hat. So it's a very nice Kron hat. And if you like the hat, we have this and a lot more items available on our online store, which is krongear.com. And there's some really cool stuff on there. We have stuff on there, and this is what we're wearing is it came from krongear.com. And you can see how good it looks on us, so you can imagine how good it'll look on you. So we encourage you to go on there, and if you want to get some Kron branded merchandise, there's a big selection on there.
Let me just remind them again, Trail, you can go online and register for a discount coupon. So there should be a link in the comments section, or maybe it pops up on the screen as you're viewing. If you click the link, it should take you to the registration form. Complete that, submit that to us, and then you'll get the coupon for some discounts on some Kron merchandise, some Kron product.
All right, thanks, David. Before we get into the product, let's spend just a few minutes and talk about the Kron organization a little bit. So we'll go to a short break, and we'll be right back. Hi, everybody. Welcome back. I have a guest with me tonight that I'd like to introduce. And the gentleman beside of me is Cliff Addison. And Cliff is our service manager here at Krone North America. And Cliff is certainly a treasure to us. He's an awesome guy, does a great job, knows the product as well as anybody. So if you were with us last night, Cliff and I were asked to do the history of Krone, and we're still puzzled by why the two of us was asked to do the history.
Yeah.
But tonight, we've been asked to talk about what's on the horizon at Krone. So we're going to get our crystal ball out and just talk about a few of the things coming up. Cliff, you know, I stay in touch with a lot of our customers out there, and I'm in tune with what goes on. And there's three things that come up that our customers talk about that are major issues, that are obstacles they have to overcome. The first one that comes up unanimously is availability of labor. So regardless of what they pay, they just can't get good help.
Right.
So that's a major issue. And the second thing is the lack of time. And whether these guys have increased the size of their operation and they're fighting weather, it just seems like they always run out of daylight too soon.
Yes.
And the third thing is the increased input cost. You know, they had to find ways to become more efficient, so they do have a profit at the end of the year. And you know, if you look at all three of those things, our company can actually have an effect on all three of those things.
Right.
So, you know, that's always things that we keep in the back of our mind when we're developing new products, as ways to address the problems and issues that our customers have. So maybe if you would, can you tell us a few of the things that we've got going on to address some of these issues?
Yeah. Terrell, you know, those 3 points that you just brought up, that you just mentioned, I think, gosh, for the last 15 years, 20 years even,
Yes.
people have been bringing those same points up. They're all across the country. They all have to work through those same kind of issues: labor
Right.
problems, efficiency, how to get everything done within a certain time range,
Yeah.
you know, make hay in a day, those kind of
Exactly.
things. And, you know, looking to the future, thinking about future products, to be honest, I kind of go back in history again. I think about a couple of years ago, we talked about we make the future. And when I look at our products that we have today, you know, we had this, I think, a call in last night from a customer
Right.
that wanted to know, you know, how to figure out if they wanted to go from a 4-basket tedder to a 6-basket tedder. You know, what
Exactly.
size should they get? And I look at our product range, and we think about our Swadro 2000, you know, a 60-foot rotary rake. We think about our KWT 1300, 1600, 2000.
Yes.
These big tedders up to 60 feet. You know, that really allows one operator to have a great impact on what's going on that farm.
Exactly.
And increase his efficiency.
Exactly. And I remember, Cliff, when we came out with the KWT 1050, which was a 36-foot tedder.
Right.
And that was unheard of at the time, you
Yes.
know, and we thought we'll never sell one of those.
Right.
You know, when we made our initial order, and we were a little optimistic on them, and they didn't last any time. You know,
that's
we couldn't keep them fast enough. And
Right.
the same thing's happening now. You know,
Right.
the trend is definitely going to bigger equipment.
Yes.
So,
Yeah. We really want to make sure that our customers know that we have these machines. You know, I also think about for some of our smaller farmers, this new Variopack baler or the Varipack baler that you guys are going to talk about tonight and look at tonight. You know, that baler, compared to a lot of competitive balers, is very high capacity, high density, allowing you to put more hay in fewer bales and
Right.
in a faster manner, you know. So these are all products that I think really would greatly help our customers be more efficient. I do think that as we look ahead a little bit, there's digital electronic technology that's coming
Right.
along. things like section control that allows the machine, a tractor to operate the rake, raise and lower, so the operator doesn't have to do that himself to make that operation more efficient. And I think those kind of things certainly are coming down the road,
Right.
and will just be a common occurrence and, autonomous.
Exactly, and I think, Cliff, I think we will continue to be amazed at some of the things that are coming.
Right.
So it's the future is very bright for some
It
of the
is.
products that we've got coming, and like I mentioned, we're aware of what our customers are facing. So we're very encouraged by what's out on the horizon.
Yes, I agree 100%. Yeah, and Kron has always been very innovative. So I can guarantee our customers that they are always looking, our engineers, guys in R&D are always looking on how can they improve our products and make them more efficient to get the job done that they need to get done. So,
Yep, we got some exciting times.
yeah, we do. I agree with that. Thinking a little bit more beyond our crystal ball, though, there is one other machine maybe that we would like to bring into focus
Okay.
for some of our customers, some of the folks out there watching tonight.
Oh, I'm sure they'd be excited to hear what you've got to say.
Yeah. So what we wanted to take just a couple of minutes and look at and talk about is the Primos 5000, the new pelletizer that
Been a
Kron
lot
has
of-
been working on.
There's been a lot of conversation and speculation about that.
Yeah. So it's a machine that creates a lot of excitement. I think coming down the road, folks will be excited to see it over here. So maybe if we could get the guys to run a clip. I think we got a short video for folks to see what we're talking about. Yeah, so here's the Primos. They're out in a wheat field, and you can see the big dies helping create the pellets. And the great thing about it is they're also working on a way to make it stationary operation as well. So I think when we're ready to introduce this thing, it will find some folks that need it.
Yep, it's amazing the number of inquiries that we've got on that.
Yes.
So,
Yeah, generates a lot of excitement.
Cliff, it would be really good if we had one here tonight, wouldn't it?
It would be awesome. I think that would be great if
You know
we had
what?
one.
We do have one.
We do?
Yes.
Oh man. Look at this. The new Primos 5000. I'm thinking back to history again, and when we introduced the Big Pack way back when, it was also one of those cases where we didn't have the machine
We
only had the toy to show people.
Cliff, I'm thinking that probably one of our viewers out there should have that.
That's a great idea, Trail.
So I tell
I
you
think
what,
that would be a great idea.
let's do. Let's get everyone that wants to enter for a chance to win this. If you will send in on the comment section, just type the word Primos, Premos, or you can send an email with Primos in the subject line to the marketing@kronna.com. You can send it via email, and at the end of the night, we'll put all the entries, and we'll have a drawing for this and send it to you. So good luck to everybody.
Yeah, I'm excited. Let's see who wins this
Yeah.
thing.
And Cliff, last night we were talking about the history, and of course we had a book, the 110 years of Kron, that we were giving away.
Yes.
And we don't have a book on the Kron horizon, and it's probably good because if we read it would probably scare us a little bit.
That's right.
But we have 20 of these that we're going to give away, and how you win these tonight is you type in, you send it either email or via YouTube, and type in hashtag KronEXPOSED, and that's KRONECTED, and we'll also put that in the link. So the first 20 people that send in will get a 110 years of Kron book. So
That's an awesome book.
so
too.
yeah, good. It is. It has a lot of history. If you guys are into history, or if you like equipment, you'll love this book because it has a lot of photographs that you can only get in this book. So it's an incredible work. So
Yeah. I'm excited for our listeners.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, don't forget the registration form and the coupon, and also to send in your questions for the presenters. We'd appreciate comments as well. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to just a short video break, and then we're going to get started on the equipment presentations tonight. We're going to start with the Rakes. So we'll take a few second break actually, and we'll be right back with you guys.
It cuts better, lays the hay out better where it can dry quicker. It's never given us any reason to go anywhere else to look for anything else.
I'm not out there working on it. You hook it up to the tractor, you service it, you go. It does a good job.
So in a heavy crop, it doesn't even notice the difference between a heavy crop and a light crop.
Welcome back. I'm glad you could join us. Jody, I think the viewers are probably shocked. I mean, we had Trail and Cliff here, and now they get two good-looking guys.
Age before beauty, David.
That's right. That's right. Welcome back. I do want to remind you we're going to say this a whole lot tonight, but it's because we really want to encourage you to send us some questions. I've got Jody here with me. If you need some tough questions answered, I've got Jody, and Brett's going to help us here in just a second on Rakes. Two excellent sources for information from Kron. Remember, we've got round balers coming up. We've got the big packs coming up. Think of your questions. Send them in early if you need to. That way we can figure out which lie we need to tell you to answer those questions. I'm kidding. We'll answer them as honestly as we know how, and we'll be truthful with you. Jody, I'm excited right now.
I'm happy to be here too.
Yeah, this is my favorite product that we're going to talk about. You're going to help us here, give us some good insight on our rotary rakes. Before we get into the product, though, if you don't mind, just introduce yourself to everybody.
Oh, sure.
Tell us about you.
Yeah, Jody McCree. I'm currently the manager of sales here at Kron North America. I've been with the company for 24 years this June, so I've seen just a few things around the K&A world. Some of that history that happened in the book. But I don't think they wrote about me, David.
Right, yeah, you're not in the book yet.
But yeah, thinking about the product we're fixing to talk about, I remember when I first started with Kron years ago, rotary rakes in North America were primarily in the north region where they were doing high moisture hay already, so they needed something different to move that crop. Dairies were interested in a little bit higher feed value at that time, but over the years, it has really been interesting to watch this rake make its way south and west too. I remember the first time I took one out on a demo. I actually was with one of our territory managers, and we went out to demo it. And I hadn't been with the company long. And this what really fascinated me about the product was the customer was using a wheel rake. That's all he had ever had before. Never knew much about a rotary rake, so the territory manager said, we just want to show this to you. And that's kind of the way we do it. We show and tell because some customers need to see it before they can believe it. But anyhow, we got to the field and they hooked the rake up and they went out and raked a few times. And the guy came back and he was smiling. I'm talking about ear to ear smile. And he said, you know what? He said, this thing's not leaving my farm. And, as I learned more about it, in an haying operation, it's kind of like a rock band. You and I were talking the other day. You got the lead singer, right? He's the guy running the baler, right?
Yes, the baler guy gets all the fame.
The name of the band is him.
Yeah.
But if you talk to anybody that does hay, the linchpin in the operation, the most important part, is the rake man or the rake lady, for that fact. Because if the rake guy doesn't do a good job, everything falls apart.
Yep.
And I think over the years with the input costs coming up, like Trail was talking about, farmers having to be more mindful about putting a red line on with their operation. I mean, making hay today is for people in some regions, they used to make hay by quantity. So they would overproduce, knowing they would have some losses. And like you were talking about relative food value, didn't even come into the picture, but it is now, and people are having to pay attention to it. And we're recipients of that here in North America. Our equipment evolved from Europe. And you think about the number of acres they have to work with in Europe. So they were used to that. We have to get more out of the acres. So the rotary rake fits that equation. And really, it has been one of our fastest growing selling product sections over the past 3 years. And we think it's going to continue to grow.
Every year I've been here with Kron, it has been a growing segment, market segment for us. And I really am excited. And we were kidding earlier about the rock star analogy. And you're right. You can, the round baler guy or the baler guy, he gets the glory.
Oh, yeah.
And the mower and the tedder guy, although very important parts, they can correct a mistake pretty easily, but the rake guy's got to be on it.
If he messes up.
Yeah, so the rake guy is the drummer of the band, and you got to have the drummer.
Got to have the beat.
You got to have the beat. So we'll move over here and talk about the product in just a second, but I just want to let everybody know, rotary rakes, we've got such a huge lineup. Again, it's a growing segment, a growing market for us, and we just keep expanding the offerings. So you can have rotary rakes from one rotor, and we make a rake that is up to 6 rotors. And so we can rake up to 62 feet in one pass with a rotary rake. Pretty amazing. Some of what Cliff was talking about earlier about how we continue to adapt and expand to meet the market demands today. Of course, we'll talk a little bit about our single rotor rakes, but majority for me personally in my territory, I sell a lot of 2 rotor rakes, and we can of course get center delivery or side delivery. Of course, the center delivery rakes, you can do 2 rotors, 4 or 6. They're all sweeping to the middle. Right. Side delivery rakes, we can do that with 2 or, well, actually a single rotor, so 1, 2, or 3 rotors. The advantage of the side delivery, of course, you're sweeping hay to the right or to the side, and if you want to with our rakes, if you're in good thick crop or maybe you're baling with a small square, you can actually make 2 separate windrows with one pass.
Right.
Flip that over, if you've got thinner crop or you've got a big baler behind you with a hungry appetite, push those rotors a little closer together, push all the hay over to one side, then you're making one windrow. A lot of versatility.
Absolutely. With
a side delivery versus the center delivery. Flip that over, maybe an advantage the center delivery has is a little bit more simple to operate and a little bit more compact unit. Center delivery, of course, the rotors are side by side. Side delivery, rotors are offset, so it makes your machine a little bit longer, a little bit more, or less nimble, I should say, than a center delivery.
Lots of options.
Yep. And the rake guy, gal, they got to have some skill. They got to have operation. So it's fun for me. I like rotary rakes. I will go into a little bit more of kind of how I fell into the rotary rake department here at Kron, so to speak. We'll talk about that in just a second. We've actually got another video coming up here for you. Please remember, send us some questions. Let us know you're there. Let us know what you want to talk about. Otherwise, you just have to listen to us talk to each other. So send us some questions. We're going to have a short video now, and then we'll come right back with Brett and Jody and talk more about rakes. Welcome back, everybody. Jody and I are here to talk a little bit more about rakes, and we're joined by a good friend of mine here, Brett Rogers. And I pick on Brett a lot. I tell him when I grow up, I want to be just like he is. So Brett knows a lot. He's been with the company. He's a good hand for us. Brett, introduce yourself to these folks and let them know who you are.
Well, thanks, David. My name is Brett Rogers. I'm a territory manager for Krone here in North America. I cover Tennessee and Kentucky. I've been with the company for going on 10 years now. Today I'm going to be talking to you about rotary rakes. We're going to break it out and talk about some specific models, but first I'd like to talk to you about some of the common elements between all Krone rotary rakes. The first part would be our rotary, or be our tines on our rotary rake. This is a exclusive lift tine is what we call it. If you look at the bottom of the tine, about 4 inches from the bottom, it's got a little bend to it, and this is something we've done new. It's new, it's fairly new. We've had it for about 4 years now. But what that does is that allows that crop to work itself up the tine. It really gets the crop up off the ground, gets it into that formation of that windrow, and does a really nice job of cleaning the edges of our windrow up and making it a really unique, fluffy, nice windrow for the baler operator. Also, you'll notice on our tines we have our tines curve around our tine arm, so we have a lot of support from the help of our tine arm. Our tines make that curve, and that puts us a lot of support and strengthens our tine really well. Our next feature.
Brett, I'm gonna interrupt you just a second. And the folks viewing, you'll have to excuse us popping in and out of the frame here. We want to get out of the way. We know you don't want to look at us, so we're trying to get out of the way so you can look at products. So when I interrupt, I'm not trying to interrupt. But Brett mentioned our lift tines, and Jody's here, and he'll help explain it. So, Brett, what you're telling me, well, tell me what makes the Krone tine a lift tine.
It's the bend at the bottom of the tine, about 4 inches from the bottom. Our older tines, they were just a straight tine. They went straight to the ground. As you can see now, the curved at the bottom of the tine is what we consider the lift tines.
So we put a bend in the bottom of a tine.
That's right. Something simple.
I mean, that sounds like my picture on a cereal box is what that sounds like. So you're telling me that a little bend in the bottom of a tine will make a difference in how a rake rakes.
Makes a huge difference.
Explain that to me just a little bit.
Well,
get out of the way again.
I really wasn't sure about the lift tine at first. However, a few months ago at our Sunbelt Ag Expo, we were raking beside a competitor machine that did not have the lift tines, and it was quite obvious that our rake was putting that crop into a better formation of that windrow. It was. Yeah, it was very clean. We didn't have to worry about crop spreading out across the windrow and back out into the field.
For all you folks looking, of course, I knew I'd ask Brett that question. I actually cheated a little bit and did a little bit of homework. We've actually done some studies about that little bend in the bottom of that tine, and I'm just going to show you real quick, if you camera guys could follow me right down here. So if you can imagine, as you get into thicker, heavier crop, and as this rake is sweeping the crop over into the windrow position, the heavier the crop is, of course, the more your tine is going to flex on the coil up here at the top. We put this little bend, and it actually helps our efficiency. So the more crop you get, the more it starts to bend back. But if you notice, the angle and where we're contacting the crop remains the same. If we were just a straight tine, as we flex with the weight and the pressure from the crop, then we're apt to lose some crop underneath the tine. So we can be more efficient just by putting this small little curve. So does this make a difference? Yes. Another effect Brett already mentioned, but if you folks at home can see, as crop starts to hit the tine, this little bend in the bottom of the tine actually forces the crop up. And as Jody just mentioned, the boxy square-sided windrow, which is kind of what we're after here, which, like we were saying, that makes the baler man look awful good when he's baling. So it sounds like this is just a sales gimmick, and you guys at home are thinking, well, those guys have the name on the shirt and they're getting paid to say that. Well, you're right. We do have the name on our shirt, and Jody, I hope I'm still getting paid to say this. My wife will be pleased if I am. But it's actually true. That does make a difference. And Brett, when you tell somebody that, it's kind of, they think it's a sales pitch.
It's kind of misleading.
It is, but I did want to ask Jody. We were talking earlier, Jody, and you were actually talking about the differences maybe in a rotary rake, and this lends to some of the differences you were telling me about earlier between rotaries and different styles of rakes.
Absolutely. You know, looking at how you gather crops in the market today, you have wheel rakes, whether they be carded or the high capacity. You have several different variations of the wheel rakes these days. And you have roller bar rakes, and you have mergers and rotary rakes. That's pretty much the types of rakes people are using to move crop together to bale or chop. With a wheel rake, it's ground driven. And that's sometimes what people look at these rakes and they say, ooh, golly, that looks complicated, because a wheel rake lays out, you move forward and the wheels turn on the ground and move the crop to the windrow. And I'm talking about whatever's on the ground gets moved to the windrow, everything. And as it does, it has a tendency to rope and make a coil out of the crop. So when you look at the differences between a wheel rake and a rotary rake, this is a 13 tine arm. Just like 13 guys with pitchforks here. They're delivering the hay in each bite to the windrow. So if I were to take a windrow from a wheel rake and try to pick it up and move it over, I'm going to move a section about from, depending on how long the crop is, I'm never going to separate it. With a rotary rake, you can take a section up and just set it over here and it'll be separated. So there's a lot of advantages to that. So feeding of the baler, you stop baling, it stops feeding. With a wheel rake, sometimes, I know the first time I baled hay with a wheel rake, I didn't know to stop before the bale went off, because when I didn't, there was still hay coming under the tractor, and I had a little problem with the feed system. But, you know, thinking about the quality of hay, that roped windrow holds moisture. A looser, less compact windrow can actually let the hay dry down if you happen to get too much moisture in the crop at that time. So those are some of the biggest differences between the two. We normally, I think in rehearsal, we did that at the desk, so we fit that in here at the rake. But it's a good place to do it, because as you see this rake turning, and I'm going to lose that one I had, I'll go all the way back around. See how they're dropping, they're coming up. So they're picking the crop up and they're dropping it off. All the way around. Where's my one? Is it on this side, Brett?
I think it's still over here.
Okay. Good deal.
We'll spin it, Brett, if you want to keep.
I'll spin it all the way
going.
back around,
Yep.
so I can show you the foldable arms.
All right, Brett, carry on for us.
The next feature that I'd like to show you is right there, Jody.
Yep.
Would be our foldable tine arms,
Yep.
and Jody's going to demonstrate how that works. You simply just pull a pin, and you can bend that tine arm up and fold it on over. And what that's going to give us on our single rotor rakes is that's going to give us a narrow transport width.
Yep.
Where it's allow us to go down the road. You know, on an old country dirt road, we don't have a lot of room.
Mailboxes.
That's right. And then it'll also, you know, if like this machine here, it's a 15-foot machine. We can fold those tine arms in and get it under 9 foot, right at 9 foot, so we can go through a 10-foot gate.
Right.
We also have our foldable tine arms on our bigger machines, our double rotors, throughout the 6-rotor machine. And what that's allowing us to do, that's allowing us to get a shorter height on the machine once we fold it up in transport. So we can get it under power lines or under a bridge or something like that, and we can also back it in a shed, a short shed, and get that machine put away for the winter. The next feature we'll show is our tine arms can be easily removed, and if you step right over here, if we were going to remove this tine arm here, we would remove the bolts that Jody's pointing at. We would remove these 2 bolts. We would remove those 2 bolts, and then we would loosen the bolts beside of it. Hopefully, most people would know we don't have to remove the tine arm. We simply pull the bolts out and pull our tine arm out. But to do that, it's if you needed to do that, it would be for some maintenance purposes. Hopefully, you don't ever have to do that. But if you ever do,
David, do we ever
it's
bend
pretty
tying
simple
arms
to do.
on a rake?
That's a perfect way for me to jump back in here. I asked Brett earlier. I said, Brett, if you bend a tying arm, where in the world is it going to bend?
Depends on how hard you hit it.
Yeah, and I mentioned at the desk, I kind of fell into liking rotary rakes. Jody actually is the guy that kind of brought me into Kron, which
I bribed him to come over.
which I'm thankful for. One of the first projects, I guess, or one of the first duties of mine is I actually had to run a rake at a farm show. Well, the first year, the rake and I managed to come in contact with a competitive piece of equipment, and of course, bent a few tying arms, and had some good guys with me that helped us straighten that out. The second year, a fence post and I didn't get along with a rotary rake. So 2 years.
Starting to worry.
Yeah, 2 years in a row, Jody's starting to second think his decision here, if he had made a good decision. But I can attest personally that removing a tying arm easily has much value added to our rakes. And literally those 2 bolts that Brett mentioned that Jody pointed out, you remove those 2 bolts, that arm comes out, and you can replace it.
Because that stuff happens in real life, David. Not
Absolutely,
just in the farm.
you're not gonna bend your rake arm in December or January because it's sitting in the shed and I'm not driving it. But when we're making hay and you ask me to come and rake for you and I hit that fence post or that tree or your truck or whatever I might hit at the time, we still have to get the hay raked, right?
Oh, yeah.
We can't spend time or don't want to spend time on repairs.
Yep.
So if we're lucky enough, we pull that arm out, put another one in there, and then we can fix the one I bent, and you can dock my pay later on.
That brings up another point, David. Something we've done over the past 2 or 3 years, well, actually the past year or two, we now offer a complete tying arm, and that's something we haven't done in years past. So when a dealer or a customer needed a complete tying arm to replace once they've hit their post or tree or whatever they've hit, we now can order a complete tying arm assembled from our warehouse. And that's obviously preventing downtime for the dealer, because if the dealer had to order all those parts, they had to put it together. And then also that's less downtime for the customer. He can pick it up at the dealership, throw it in, put his tines on, he's ready to go in just a few minutes.
Bent arm
That's right.
at night or
That's right.
to the next time.
So moving on, our next feature that I'd like to show you is our tandem axles. As you can see, Jody's pointing at it. That's a really not unique feature that we have. That helps us to go over the contour of the ground and work over ditches and holes if we have to. It really helps keep the machine riding smooth through the field, and that's what it's all about. So that we have less wear and tear on the machine, and also so that the machine will continue to drive through the field with making that good uniform windrow. And that is standard on all our single rotors on all our machines. That we have, yes. The next feature I'd like to show you is if you step on over here to our breakaway, is our Duramax cam track, which if you look in here in our breakaway, you can see that brown cam track. What that is, that's our guts to the rake. Our tying arms will go in. They'll fit. At the end of our tying arms, we have a bearing that will fit inside that cam track. This cam track here, it has a real wide track, which some of our competitors probably won't have that. It'll be a little smaller, but we have a good wide track that allows us to have larger bearings. And you say, well, what difference does that make? A larger bearing is going to spin slower, which is also going to put less wear on those bearings over time. And that's what we're all about. We're trying to prevent our customers from being down for long, at all. And with those larger bearings, we're able to keep the reliability of the machine up a little more. You'll also see in this cam track here, it's steep angle. So when our bearings are running in this cam track and the tying arms are up out of the crop, we don't want to be dragging any product. So when they're up, they're up. And when they go down into the bottom half of that cam track there, we want that tying arm turned. We want it swinging around and grabbing that crop, and vice versa when it comes back out. And you say, well, what difference does that make? Well, what we're trying to do is we're trying to prevent that great windrow. And with the steep angled cam track like we've got, we're either getting crop or not. We don't want to see that crop being drug, so we have a good, unique, uniform windrow on the edges.
Brett, let me interrupt you here just one more time. We've actually got some questions from our viewers, so thank y'all. Keep sending them. This helps us all out. I got to confess, I'm not sure I know the answer to the first one, so I'll put us all on the spot.
You're the rate guy, so if you don't, I probably don't.
What is the differences between the Krone 1400 Plus and the TC 1370?
Yeah, I'll take a shot at it. I don't have the specs in front of me, but the 1370 is the new generation version of the 4-rotor rake, so that'll be taking over from the old 1400s. The Plus models had a feature where the whole rake would hydraulically lower. In addition to foldable arms and foldable curtains and everything, the middle frame would actually hydraulically lower so you could reduce your transport height. So we're kind of in a little bit of a mix right now. Sometimes we don't get some of the new generation rakes like the 1370 as fast as they do in Europe, but we are getting some 1370s this year. So I would say that would probably be the biggest difference, is the 1370 is the new generation.
Yeah, and I've already had several inquiries on a 1370 rake, so sounds like it's going to be a popular model for us. Our next question is, here's another good one. How can I set the TS 740 twin back rotor to set down after the front rotor coming off the headland? He gives us a plug here. This is from Jason. He says, I love the rake. It seems really tough. So Jason, I'm gonna let Brett answer this, I think, but for those listening that may not know, or those viewing that may not know what a TS 740 is, real quickly, I can't answer that one. A TS 740 is a twin rotor side delivery rake. So it can make 1 or 2 windrows. So what Jason is asking us is, how can he set the back rotor, or how can he set the rake so that the back rotor will sit down after the front rotor coming off the headland?
Well, that is a pretty tricky deal to do. I've done a few of them. I've had to adjust on it on a few of them. The 740 and the 680 are both the same as far as the hydraulic sequence that you have to adjust. What it is, Jason, there's some hydraulic blocks, what I would call them, up on the front of the rake, or on front of each rotor. The front one will have 2 and the rear one will have 1, and correct me if I'm wrong, David, but one on the front is your height, I believe.
Yes.
And the other one is your sequence. Now I can't remember which one's which, but one is the sequence. So the sequence, when I say sequence, what I'm saying is it's which rotor comes up first versus the rear rotor coming up. And there's some adjustments there in the linkage rods. If you shorten those or lengthen those, and I would have to be at the machine to show you, but as you shorten or lengthen those rods, those rotors come up faster or slower. I believe it's the front one is the one that adjusts the sequence as far as the timing of which rotor, the front rotor coming in the back rotor, and then the other block, which is just right behind it on the front rotor, and it's the only block on the back rotor, that is the height. And so that's how high when we hit our hydraulics, it's how high the rotor will come and bottom out on our mechanical stop. So
for the headland position.
For the headland position,
But
that's
Jason,
right.
if you'll give us an email address or a way to get in touch with you, we'll make sure that we get somebody to get with you and sort that out.
It's pretty tricky. It's a pretty tricky process, but it can be done.
It can be done.
It's a process that's very difficult to explain without showing you how to do it, Jason. Right. And we'll actually talk some more about the reasons for those adjustments, those blocks, because there's a certain order that we want that rake to pick up and sit back down in the field. So we'll talk about that here in just a little bit. So maybe give you a little bit better or more explanation to your question then. Yeah. I've still got another question. This one's good. Jody, I'll let you handle this one. What are the PTO horsepower and RPM requirements?
Well, that's always a fun question to answer. Typically, farm equipment's run at what RPM? 540 or 1,000, right? Yep. And everybody seems to think that I need to run that rotary rake at 540 RPM. If you ever watched one of those rakes run at 540, those arms are moving.
They are.
And what we're trying to do is build a nicely formed windrow. You don't have to run it at 540. We don't recommend you run it at 540. It's actually going to has a tendency to want to carry crop away from the windrow when you do that. So it's like you trying to gather up the laundry on the bed. If you want to get a good armful of laundry, if you go too fast, you're going to miss something. So really, I think it depends on your part of the country and what crop you're trying to rake, but don't start at 540. Start somewhere around 380 horse PTO.
I always recommend 350 to 450.
Right, somewhere in that range. You'll find your sweet spot. And what you do is you watch that windrow as it's forming. If you see hay starting to come off the top and fly away, slow that RPM down. I mean, it's less fuel. I mean, you're going to burn less fuel that way, probably less wear and tear on you as a raker.
Yep. I think we actually have a decal on the rake itself, right?
I think so.
It recommends maybe between 350 and 450
Right.
RPMs. And I do agree with Jody that you kind of have to find your spot, and it will differ on fall cutting versus what you did in
Morning
spring
and
cutting.
afternoon,
Yep.
how wet the crop is.
It'll vary. If you want to go faster, leave your RPMs low and catch a gear.
That's right.
Because it's not a helicopter. We're not taking off, so you don't want to spin that thing that fast. Still got one more question here. Joshua wants to know, and Brett, I'm going to let you answer this one if you will. Is it possible to have foam-filled tires under the rotor?
It's possible.
Well, I guess anything's possible.
Not recommended.
I don't know that I would recommend it, especially under a single rotor rake, because we're always on our little tires going up and down the road, and that's probably where you'll start running into problems if those tires were foam filled. So that's would be kind
They're
of my
part of the
recommendation.
flotation of the rake. You know, you think about a vehicle tire. There's a reason why it needs to be flexible. So you might end up doing more damage to the rake itself if you were to foam fill them.
Yeah.
I understand the frustration of changing flats, but I think that's why a lot of people put foam in them.
Yep. Yep. Flats are no fun, but
part of
expensive
farming.
repair and maintenance costs are not either.
That's right.
All right, thank y'all for the questions. Keep sending those questions, and we'll answer them. So, Brett, we were talking about the cam track,
That's right.
and so maybe we should move ahead here in the interest of time and get to the specific models.
Okay. Well, if you would, we'll step over here and we'll do kind of a brief walk around on our single rotor rake. This is our 46T, roughly 15 foot wide, 15 foot 1 inch wide. Starting from the front, we've got a big heavy drive line with two constant velocities on both sides, one on the front, one on the back. And what that's allowing us to do, make tighter turns in the fields. If we get down into a corner and it's hard to turn around, we still can make those turns and hopefully not damage our drive lines that would, our drive of the drive system of the rake. You come on back, we have a clutch. It's actually a radial pin clutch. The purpose of that is to obviously protect the machine, but I actually get a lot of questions about the clutch, especially on newer tractors. If you've got a electric PTO on your tractor, when you engage that electric PTO, that clutch will start popping. And what that is the PTO speed on the tractor is much faster than it is on the rake, and so that rake is trying to catch up with the speed on the tractor. If you've got an older style tractor, or your tractor is engaged real slow, you probably won't ever hear it. But I can assure you that is not an issue. It's not damaging the machine or anything like that. So if you work your way on back from the clutch, we have an internal drive line, and then we go to our ring and pinion gear, and that's in our fully enclosed gearbox back here. Is a ring and pinion gear. Basically, that's driving those rotors. That's driving the rotor, which is driving our tine arms inside of our cam track that we talked about a little bit earlier. While we're talking about it, the cam track and the ring and pinion, that runs in what we call a GFO 35 grease. It's very similar to like a corn head grease. When that machine is sitting still or cool, the grease it's more like a grease form. As the rake runs and gets warmer, that grease turns to more like an oil. But once it cools down again, it goes back to the grease form. Those two components, like I said earlier, those are the meat and potatoes of the rake. That's where all our money is at in this product. And we at Kron, we do a really good job of keeping that pretty well maintenance free. You know, unless you hit something or tear something up inside there, we shouldn't have. That's not something we need to check or look at every day. Maybe between cuttings we would look at it. We do have a check plug for our ring and pinion that we can look at. I think Jody's going to point that out, but we might look at that. But if the only way we would need to get in and out of there is if maybe we see some seepage going on and maybe a seal going out or something like that. But as far as daily routine, you don't see anything wrong. The rake's running good. That's not something that we have to keep an eye out for all the time. One thing you'll notice with this rake, we do a really good job of keeping it compact and mobile. Both of our guards, we've got one up here for our left side of the machine. We've got one down over here for the right, but both of those will fold up. So once we fold those up and we fold our tying arms up, our foldable tying arms, like I said earlier, the machine will compact down to about 9.5 foot wide, which allows us to go into that 10-foot gate with a 15-foot machine or get up and down the road as we see fit. You'll also notice that on this particular machine there's 7 foldable tying arms, and what that's for is so that we have a few on each side. We've got 4 on that side and we've got 3 on this side, so like I said, that compacts the machine and gets it where we need to go. David, is there anything I missed on the
maybe just mention the settings on this one, and then we can roll over to the double rotor.
The settings. So setting the rake, there's a few things that we have here. If you look, Jody's going to point it out, but setting our height, our height of our machine, knowing where it needs to be set. There's a bumper, a black bumper pad that is riding on the rotor, and once it does, it sits down on that chassis, and that stops the rotor from going any farther down. I call that kind of a rough setting, is what I like to call it. There's a lot of that steel that runs in there. It has a lot of oblong holes, so we have a huge difference between each hole. There's a lot of a variation there, I guess you could say, a big range, so that we can really get that rake set to your crop and in your field. The next setting we have is up here on our tilt cylinder. There's a crank here, and what that's doing is that is our pitch forward and back. Like I said, that setting is here. We're going to crank this to where we need to get it set. Like I said, we'll get that pitch forward and back to where we need it, kind of a fine tooth adjustment for our raking height in the front of our machine. If we step on over to the axle on the right hand side of this machine, we have a turnbuckle on our axle. And what that's doing the same thing we were doing up front, except now we're doing it side to side. If we need to adjust our rake left to right, kind of a fine tooth adjustment left to right, that's where we would make that adjustment there. So these are the settings on the single rotor. We've kind of done a brief walk around on it. Now we're going to ease over to our double rotor machine and go through it. So kind of starting our way from the front, this here is our Swadro TC760. As David and Jody mentioned earlier, this is one of our center delivery rakes. It's extremely common, it's more and more common in my area. Really great rake that does a really good job. But starting from the front, kind of working our way back, you'll notice this big backbone frame that we have on this rake. That helps us to carry the weight. Carrying the weight in transport, carrying the weight through the field. It does a really nice job of getting our rotors up off the ground and keeping them out of the dirt and really supporting them going through the field or up and down the road. You'll also notice our steering rod. It's a rod that runs from the front of the machine all the way to the back. And what that's doing is as we turn going in the field, our 2-point connection is making that it's helping that rear axle turn with the tractor, so that really does a nice job up and down the road, getting into gates. If you're ever pulling a gooseneck trailer and you have to turn right, we always have to kind of swing out and get that trailer in behind us. With this rake, we don't have to do that as much because of the steering rod. It also helps us when we're in the field. If we get in a tight spot in the field, that rake, even though it's pretty long, it's able to follow and track in behind that tractor and do a really nice job. Also back there at the back, We have on our axle back there, we have a big flotation tires. Those do a really nice job of going through the field without damaging our crop. We have I think we actually bring the largest flotation tires that we have available for this machine. We bring that standard to the United States, and that's simply, we're trying to prevent damage from your crop and making the machine float across the field as well as possible. The other thing, if you look, we have big coil springs on both sides of the machine, and what they do is they help with the suspension. Those springs transfer that weight back to our backbone frame, as we talked about, and what that's doing is that's helping that rotor stay up off that ground as much as possible. One, to prevent damage from your crop, but also to keep those tines and those tine arms out from your crop. You'll notice each of our rotors, we're going to have 6 wheels underneath of them. So we talked a little bit earlier about our walking tandems, which are back there at the back, and then up front we have our bogie wheels. And that does a really nice job of keeping that rotor supported underneath and keeping it going with the contour of the ground like it's supposed to. You also notice that our base is real wide. Our base is so wide that we're right inside our tine arm, or right inside our tines. That's once again, that's keeping that machine as wide as possible and keeping it smooth flowing through the field like it's supposed to.
Brett, let me jump in here just a second again. I get a lot of questions. Now, you're in Kentucky, Tennessee.
That's right.
I'm in North Carolina, Virginia, West Virginia. Sometimes our terrain, our fields are not perfectly level.
That's right.
So I get a lot of questions from customers just wondering how this rake does on steeper grades, on hillsides, and also on terraces. So what would you tell somebody that's kind of curious about how this rake behaves on terrain like that?
Yeah, I would, we talked a little bit earlier about the rake man being the knight in shining armor, and really you kind of got to be smart about it. If you're going over a terrace, I like to really see the field, go with the terrace if you need to. If you can keep from going over it and causing a lot of, keep from going over the hills and dips and dodges and all that. But other than that, it does a really good job. Like I said, we talked earlier about the tines, how that slight bend makes a big difference. Well, these springs that we've talked about, the wide base, the walking tandems, those are actually options for this machine in other countries. Here in the United States, we bring them standard, and we do that because we're trying our best to cause this machine to do a great job.
It's all about the feed value and the quality that we're putting in the windrow. I would like to point out, we do offer or bring in as standard on this particular model in most of our rotary rakes, the 6 wheels under each rotor. Now, we do have options. An example, I had a customer that specifically wanted a 4-wheel setup. Germany does offer that, so that's what we ordered. So it won't be on every single rake, but the vast majority will have the 6 wheels. And then you've already mentioned the big transport tires in the back, right. The wide stance, the heavy backbone frame. And these rakes are very stable on hillsides. Now, yes. I'm going to throw in a disclaimer. If you're on a steep hill and you want to fold this rake up, you might want to be pointed straight up and down instead of to the side, because they can tip. They can get top heavy.
They're top heavy.
when you fold it up. But when you actually have the rake down in raking position, it'll hold a hillside very well because of all these features that Brett just mentioned.
That's right.
And one other thing, Brett, you mentioned the springs that help to assist in our flotation, but we like to run that remote that's responsible for folding those arms up and down. We like to run that in float. So tell them a little bit why that's beneficial to us.
We like to do that to keep our pressure off of our hydraulic cylinders, but also doing that, we can, that independently lets each rotor work as it's needed.
Yeah, a lot of people think that if this rotor has to contour down, that automatically means the left one's going to contour up, and it's actually exactly the opposite.
That's right. If we got our remotes in float.
Yeah, if we have them in float, it actually can suspend very well and kind of suspends independently of the rest of the rake.
The rotor does a really nice job of suspending left to right and also forward and back. I think we have a term for that that we use cardanic effect, but I'm not real good with big words, so I'm gonna steer away from that. But,
So I was trying to draw that word out of him. He didn't want to say it, but he did for me. So thanks, Brett.
but also, I guess next we'll discuss our hydraulics. So on this particular rake, we need 2 sets of remotes. We need 1 hose that's going to raise and lower, and then we have 2 hoses that are going to extend and retract our rotors, and that's something else that we have. It's this cylinder here, right here at the edge, and what that's going to do is telescoping our rotors in or out. This machine actually goes from 22 foot 6 inches out to 24 foot 11 inches. So that's why we have that range there on width, because we're able to extend those out, get a larger windrow, or we can retract them and get a smaller windrow, and that's all based off your crop and what you're trying to complete there. So another thing we have on our hydraulics is a diverter. That's here. That mounts actually on the back of the tractor when you're operating. But what that does, that allows us to pick up a rotor independently and leave one down. So if you step back, we have some mechanical stops right back here that our rope's connected to. And they actually serve 2 purposes. When we fold our rotors up to a headland, which when I call a headland, I'm talking about getting to the end of our windrow to turn back around. Those stops keep that rotor from coming all the way up when you hit your hydraulics to damage your drive lines. And then also the mechanical stops, when you fold those rotors all the way up to transport, they are a mechanical lock so that we don't have to worry about our cylinders leaking down over time. But back to our diverter, as I talked earlier, we can raise or lower one of those rotors at a time, and what that's doing, that's going to allow us to get in a tighter spot if we need to in a field without damaging the rake. So I got Levi up there on the tractor. I was going to kind of show you our hydraulics. He's going to raise them up to our headland position, and I'm going to turn our diverter valve and show you how that works, how one will go down with leaving one up, and then we're going to show you our extension and our retracting on our other cylinders. So there he is. He's raising them up to a headland position, and then I'm going to change one over, and now if he would lower it, you can see how that works. We have one rotor go down, our other rotor stays up, so we can obviously keep our PTO running, and this rake would be working in the field, and this one will be at a transport. If you would, lower them. He's going to raise both of them up, and then he's going to go to his other remote, and he's going to extend and retract those rotors. And what that's doing is that's widening our windrow or narrowing our windrow on whatever's fit for the operator. Gonna lower them. So that's a little bit on the hydraulics. It seems really complicated, but it's actually a really simple process.
Brett, before we kind of wrap up, I don't know if our viewers were able to notice, but when Levi raised and lowered our rotors,
yep,
we kind of noticed an effect where the back tires stayed on the ground the longest, and then when you let it down, it was the back tires hit the ground first.
That's right.
So explain a little bit of that, and then I hope we can maybe explain to Jason a little bit more, who asked questions about the rotor lifting time on his 740. Maybe explain that a little better to him as well.
Okay. What David was describing there when Levi was raising and lowering our rotors, that's actually an effect that we call the jet effect at Kron, and it's exactly what it sounds like. If you think about it, it's like a jet that's taking off or landing. So if the jet were taking off to land, our front tire is going to come up off the ground if we're taking off. That's the same thing that's happening with this rotor. When Levi hits his hydraulics, that rotor is going to come up with the front first and then the rear later. And what we're doing there is we're trying to get out of that crop and prevent from making contact with our existing windrows. Same thing goes whenever when we're coming back down. So when we come back down, we make our headland position. That rotor is coming back down. We're going to actually hit the bottom first. the rear first and then the front later. And what that's doing is that's preventing you from getting into your existing windrows and causing keeping you from having a crop scattered throughout your field after you've already been over it.
Yeah, and I think that ties back into Jason's question on the 740. So Jason, those cams on the front, or those hydraulic blocks on the front of your rake, and then you have the one on the back of your side delivery rake, they are to help us to control. We want that first rotor to come off the ground first because you're approaching your already completed windrow.
That's right.
So we want it to come off the ground first. We still need to rake some with the second rotor, so we want it to stay on the ground a little bit longer. So we affect that with some cams that push those hydraulic blocks open and closed. So that's the reason that those adjustments are there. And you can probably move those cams back and forth a little bit, and as Jody mentioned before, find the sweet spot that works for you. So we do the jet effect for the same reason that we have those blocks on your 740 rake. We want to pick the front end up first so that it clears the windrow that you're approaching if you've already been around the field a few times. And then when we're setting everything back down, we want the back of the rotor to sit down first. That keeps those front tines out of the dirt, protects your rake, but more importantly, our main focus is to keep that dirt out of the windrow.
Right.
So the jet effect combined with how we time the lifting of the front rotor and the back rotor on your 740 kind of combine and go hand in hand. That's together. Right. Guys, I think that about wraps this up. Have either of you? They're talking to me in my ear. I'm supposed to remind you once again, if you want to register for the discount coupon, please do so. There should be a comment, a place in the comment section where you can click a link to go to that form, that web page, fill out the information, hit submit, send that to us, and then in turn we'll return that coupon. And I don't know if y'all have heard, I'm not supposed to say this because I didn't pay anything, but NFL, Fox, they give away Terry's money. Well, we're giving away Dietz's money. So if you want some of Dietz's money, fill that in and get you a coupon. Guys, is there anything else that we need to do or say here before we wrap up with our rotary rakes?
There's a lot to talk about rotary rakes, and I guess there's probably a lot of people thinking about it. Probably the best thing for you to do if you're thinking about moving to a rotary rake is contact your local dealer. They'll get in touch with one of our Krone experts in the field, and we'll advise you of the right rake you need. There are a lot of options. It can be a little bit confusing, but we can help you out, make that less confusing so you make the right decision and the right investment.
Thanks, Jody. Mm-hmm. You talked out, Brett.
I'm done, I think.
Brett was so excited to do this whole event. I'm sure y'all can tell, but I am serious. Brett's a good guy, and I do hope that I can be like him when I grow up. We're going to cut to a...
what about the rock band, though?
Yeah, in the rock band, I think, he's the lead. He's the lead. He's the rock singer. Your
rake people, the rake guy or the rake gal, this right here, if you're looking to make a change in your operation right now, to increase efficiency or relative food value
and quality, a rotary rake is an ideal thing to change. And
you get a rotary rake, you're gonna go from playing at Denny's to selling out stadiums. That's what you're gonna do. All right, we're gonna go to a short video here. We'll transition. We got round balers coming up, so stay tuned. Thanks again to Jody. Thank you, Brett. We'll see y'all right back here in just a second.
Great.
To harvest higher quality hay, you need a superior quality tedder and rotary rake. Start with a Krone tedder to speed up dry down. These heavy-duty tedders feature a clean sweep tine design that lifts the crop cleanly. Follow up with a Krone rotary rake, offering exclusive jet effect lift system and tine design that creates a cleaner windrow for faster dry down. Krone tedders and rakes for higher quality hay.
It's good to see you all again. We're moving into the round baler segment of our presentation tonight. Krone started selling balers in 1987. And back then, we had 3 talking points that we would talk about on our balers. And the first was versatility. And back then, our balers would literally bale anything you put in front of it. Wet hay, dry hay, haylage, scrap hay, whatever. I can remember one year we were at the Sunbelt Expo, and they had shredded some cotton stalks, and they were windrowed up. So what we did is we took the baler out there just to see if it would bale it, and it did an amazing job. The bale we kicked out was totally beautiful. This wasn't cotton hulls, this was cotton stalks, and if you're familiar with cotton stalks, very tough, very woody, and this baler just literally ate them up. And the second talking point that we always talked about was reliability. You know, when a farmer's got a day to bale his hay, the baler's got to work, and Krone balers have always been known to be super reliable. And that reliability comes with a long life, good resale value. The third talking point was performance. Our round balers were always very high performing balers. And throughout all the model changes that we've had, throughout the years from 1987 up until these two latest models here, we still have the same talking points. We can talk about versatility, we can talk about reliability, and we can talk about performance. So I have with me tonight, I'm totally surrounded by baler experts. I have with me Gene, who's going to talk in just a few minutes about the Fatima series baler. And Gene, if you would, just maybe do a brief introduction for everyone.
Sure. I'm Gene Williams. I'm the product manager for the Southern region. I specialize in core products, which is, of course, the round balers, the rakes, disc mowers, and teders. And I'm also right now running Territory 26, which is Southern Missouri all the way up to Southern Iowa. So got some really good dealers I'm working with up there. And I've been with the company going on a little less than 30 years now. Been up from starting in the warehouse up through the parts department into service, running a territory and into product, and now I'm doing product and a territory again. So very excited today to talk about round balers, the old version, the new version. We've got so many balers that we could talk about right now, but we're going to focus on two tonight. So.
Yeah, Gene and I, we grew up with the Krone balers, so we've been around a while with them. Yep. Then on the other hand, we have Colin, who's been with us. How long, Colin? Maybe just introduce yourself and tell us how long you've been with the Krone.
Sounds good. My name's Colin Weisenbaugh. I'm a territory service manager for 29, and that covers South Carolina, Georgia, and Florida. Been with Krone for a little under 2 years, and I'm excited to get into these balers.
Awesome. We're awesome to hear what you have to say about our balers, Colin. So
Thank you.
I think, Gene, you're going to start off on the Fatima. Is that correct?
That is correct.
All right. Well, thanks.
All right. Thanks, Trail. What I would like to start with, we're going to talk about the Fatima 1600 balers, which is a 4x5 fixed chamber baler. We also offer a Belima 4x4 fixed chamber. Pretty much the same kind of concept, just a different size. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a kind of a simple walk around the baler. We're going to talk about all the pros and cons, mostly pros about this baler. And like I said, this is really replacing what we used to call the old KR series balers with a lot of new updates. So we're going to try to point out as many new features and options that we have on this particular model. So like I said, I'm going to start with the front of the baler, then we're going to kind of make a circle around the baler. And like I said, I would love to have any questions, whether you've got an older baler, you have something on an older baler and you would like to know if we've updated it or changed anything, please send those questions in and we'll try to get them answered for you. So as you can see here on the front of the baler, we're going to talk about the most important thing is the feeding operation. As you can see here, this is our crop roller. This is where we're going to start at. So as our crop roller, as our material is being fed into the baler, we're actually going to try to smooth it out, take out any clumps or wads that we have in that windrow. We're going to try to smooth it out. And then we have like a compression rake right behind it. So as that material is being fed under the crop roller and the compression rake is holding it down on the pickup. Now, we have about a 6.5 foot pickup, which is a cam track, camless cam track. So right off the bat, we have a third less moving parts on our pickup. So with a third less moving parts, we can also speed that pickup up. So we have a crop roller going, we have a hay guard, that's compression rake that's pushing it down, and we have a faster pickup with less moving parts. So with a 6.5 foot pickup, What that allows us to do is to grab wide windrows. You know, back in the old days when we were selling KR balers, we had to put Tucker wheels on it. Those days are gone. So right now, we got augers on each side. So as we're bringing that crop in, of course, with 6-foot pickup, our throat's only 4 foot wide. This is only a 4-foot baler. So our augers are feeding that material into the center. And if you can look down inside here, we have a feed rotor. We don't have a feed rake. The old style system we used to have was in a time system. When the auger would dump, we had a feed rake trying to feed the chamber. Now we've got a feed rotor. So once that material hits that feed rotor, it is in the chamber. And I'm pretty sure we have a quick video that we can show you as it's feeding, with everything moving perfectly. That way we have perfect uniform formation into the chamber. So if we can show that video, there we go. So as you can see there, we have the crop roller turning, we have the camless pickup, we have the feed rotor feeding the chamber, and the augers dumping it into a 4-foot wide baler. Of course, you can see the gauge wheels on the side. That's keeping the flotation on the pickup. We can run that in float at any given time, so that way we have flotation up and down on our pickup.
Being on the KR series, which we had the feed rake in,
yes,
everybody was always totally amazed by how fast you could bale with that baler.
Right.
So with this feed rotor,
yes,
you got to have an awesome ground speed with it.
Oh, you have a tremendous ground speed with this baler. And we're going to talk about that when we get to the back a little bit more on a fixed chamber versus a variable chamber.
Right.
And you can actually outspeed yourself with this baler. You can actually go too fast and not let the chain and bar system compact it.
Right.
So, you know, this baler here works on your speed versus how many revolutions that chain has turned.
Mm-hmm.
So, and we'll get into that in the horsepower a little bit, when what kind of horsepower we need and that kind of operation. So yeah, you can actually outspeed yourself on compaction on this baler.
Oh, very good.
All right, awesome. So we're going to walk around to this side over here. We're going to point out a couple of features that we have. And the first thing I wanted to point out on the left-hand side, everything we're talking about, you know, we're talking about looking at the baler from behind. So when I say on the left-hand side, of course, it'll be on this side. It's simple. This baler here is simple. We're going to focus a lot on simple. This baler is simple. We have one drive chain on this side, a heavy-duty 100 chain, heavy-duty sprockets, heavy-duty enclosed bearings. As you can see down here, we have a grease bank. So we can grease all these bearings at one time. We don't have to climb all over the side of the baler or up on top to try to grease fine fittings. We have a decal pointing out right here where all the grease fittings are. So you're not going back to look in the manual, try to find out, you know, did I miss one, whatever. So what I like to do personally is I just number them 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. And then that way, and then I try to take a highlighter wherever they are down here and then just mark them. So that way, you know, however many hours, if it says 8 hours or 40 hours, then you can actually go to the decal and say, yeah, I haven't greased that one in a while. That's number 6, and go find number 6 and grease it right quick. So like I said, that saves a lot of time than trying to climb all over the baler. And you'll see that on a lot of chrome products that we sell. We have external grease banks where you can get to that bearing pretty easy, you know. And that is the main thing. I like that we have greasable bearings. That way we know that bearing's getting grease, it's not enclosed, and we don't have to worry about that, you know, bearing going out. So if we're greasing it and it's pumping grease in there, at least we know that, hey, we're putting new grease in it. So we're going to continually walk back here. We're going to talk a little bit here about the lock valve, which is a safety valve, very important. So whenever we want to work on the baler or we're underneath the baler back here, we want to make sure that the baler's locked, the tailgate can't come down on us. So what's really nice, we have a mechanical lock. We just pull it up and lock it. And that way, when we lock it now, we can go to the tractor and raise the tailgate up. We don't have to get back off the tractor. We can lock it, go to the tractor, raise the door up, and now it will not come back down since it's locked. So we don't have to get off the tractor twice to open the tailgate and make sure everything's locked. So we're going to talk about the single acting cylinder. This baler has 2 remotes. It has 1 remote for the tailgate up and down, single acting. We flow it up and gravity shuts it. The other remote is for the hydraulic pickup. So we don't have to, worry about, cranking it up and down. So 2 remotes, you're gonna need 2 remotes for this for this baler. Single acting on each one. Then we're gonna walk to the back and we're gonna talk a lot about a fixed chamber bar and chain baler. Everybody's like, oh my God, here's a bar and chain baler. I had one of them 35, 40 years ago, and I had, I don't want to see a bar and chain baler. We've been selling this baler here in North America for over 45 years, nonstop. But people remember them old, we'll say the competitor's name, the old New Holland bar and chain baler. And the first thing that they'll say, the customer will say is, I love that baler. It will bale anything. But I'd never buy another one because I got tired of, replacing bars. These are solid bars. These are not hollow bars. We do not have a problem bending bars. So a complete elevator system, bar and slat, bar and chain. So what happens is this chain goes under, over the top, around, and back through. One complete system. We don't have 2 chains, it's all one. Plus we have a fixed chamber. It's 4 foot wide, 5 foot tall. You're not gonna make a variable size out of this baler right here. It's gonna make a 4x5. That's all it's gonna make. Like I said, we do offer a 4x4 as well. But what that allows us with a fully enclosed chamber is whatever comes through that feed rotor is staying in here. It's fully enclosed. For those guys that are running a crop like alfalfa, for example, whatever leaves come in this baler are going to stay in this bale. They're not going to fall out the bottom. They're not going to go out the top. We would have the same issue with any belt baler or any other baler we've got, but on a fixed chamber, whatever goes inside is going to stay inside. The guys down in, let's say, South Georgia that's doing a lot of peanut hay, they have a lot of dust, right? They're out there in very, very dry, dusty conditions. They've noticed that with these balers right here, it keeps the dust and debris down when they're out there, and it'll put up a very nice product for them. And they have very few issues as far as with the chains, as far as wearing. They seem to last a lot longer than some of the other systems, let's say for a belt system baler. So it works really well down there in South Georgia.
Gene?
Yes, sir.
I've noticed on the bale ramp, we used to use a very similar type bale ramp on the KR balers.
Right.
And we called it the mini stop.
Right.
Does this act as a mini stop?
It will, yes it will.
Awesome.
You want me to explain that?
Please.
All right.
It's a great feature.
Right. So we do not cut the PTO off when we're kicking a bale out. We do not have to turn the RPMs down when we're kicking a bale out. So what happens is when we open the door up and we feel the bale come out of the back of the baler, we don't have to shut the door right then before we take off. We can actually take off in the windrow as we're shutting the door. So what that means is, yeah, we're going to have crop coming through as the door is coming down. So whatever crop is flowing out of the feed roller across the roller is going to land on a kicker, and the tailgate will grab that material right here and put it in the chamber for you. So it actually speeds up your operation in a day. So that way you don't have to sit there, back up, or anything like that. So while we're talking about the bale ramp, we might as well bring up, you do not back up while you open the door either. If you want to back up on a hillside to kick a bale out, back up, put your baler in the position, then open the door. Because if you're backing up and you're trying to open the door, you don't want the bale to come out and put your kicker in the dirt and try to pick the baler up. So I've seen that happen a lot in the past, but not so much on the new ones. We also have a bottom roller that we use that keeps that bale turning at all times. So why do we need to keep that bale turning? Well, this is a silage baler. This is a 4x5 silage baler that will do dry hay. And why do I call it a silage baler? Because of the bars. It acts like a pair of vice grips. Those bars are going to dig into that bale. There's no slippage. It's going to clamp it just like a pair of vice grips. The bottom roller's turning, the bars have got it, and they're going to keep the bale turning. The front roller here, you can see the the little grooves here, all that's for is to keep the bale turning, and it also kind of spreads any kind of clumps or wads that may be coming in on the sides or whatever, and it'll smooth it out and give you that nice little square look on top of the bale that you're looking for. So, you know, well, I heard a lot of bad things about, you know, fixed chamber balers. They're soft core. Well, you know, there are two things that can be said about that. Yeah, it's a soft core baler. Yeah, it's a fixed chamber baler. And if you've ever seen the bale sitting out in the guy's field that have that star pattern in it, that's going to be a fixed chamber baler. Whether it's ours, there's a couple more out there on the market that are being sold. So if you see that star pattern, that's a fixed chamber baler. And well, you know, the customer's going to say, yeah, I saw that, and I don't want one of them soft balers. Well, this baler right here, it's based on density, not on size. So we're running this baler, we're actually looking at how much density, how much have we packed that bale inside this chamber. So you can actually produce a bale that you can kick out of the back of this thing where you can't put a spear in it, because I've done it. You're going to push it through a fence or whatever, or tip it over trying to put a spear in it. And the way you do that is, back to Trail's question earlier about how fast you can go. Well, if you're doing on average 7 miles an hour, and you've got a 70 horsepower tractor, you're going to be baling all day, no problem. Your ground speed at 7 miles an hour and the number of rotations that you're getting on your chain is going to compact that bale perfectly. Because what you're going to do is you're going to fill this chamber up. It's just in there tumbling, just like clothes in a dryer. It's just sitting in there tumbling. And what we're going to do is we're going to add more clothes or add more hay to it. So eventually, we're going to fill this thing up, and we're actually going to start stuffing it. And it packs it from the outside in. Keeps packing it until it packs it so tight, it makes that star pattern, that core that we had in there. So after we make that core, then we're going to see how tight we want to pack it. We'll show that in the front of the baler. Well, do we want it, you know, where it's really, really soft, or do we want it where it's really, really tight? So we've got a series of numbers up there that we can set our actual density that we want to produce, or what kind of weights we want to produce as well. So with that being said, you know, once we get that bale and that, like I said, the ground speed and the horsepower set, let's say if a guy's got a 55 horsepower tractor on flat ground, and he's like, hey, can I run that baler? And I'd probably say, yeah, the baler will run. You can run that baler. You know, you may only be able to run 4, 5, 6 miles an hour, but by the time you get to where you want to pack it, you may want to gear down a couple of gears and give the chain enough time to pack it. There again, you know, the only time that we're using horsepower to run this baler is when we're packing it. So it takes nothing to fill an open chamber. We're just putting hay right in the middle of it. Well, the only time we're using the horsepower is when we're trying to compress that product into a package. So,
Gene, just a little bit of trivia.
Yes, sir.
In Germany, 54% of the balers sold are fixed chamber balers. That surprises a lot of people. And over here, it's what, maybe 10 or 12 at most?
Yeah, and the reason being, if you're not feeding, if you're not unrolling hay down a hill, or if you're feeding in a ring, you know, it makes no difference. You know, well, it does, I mixed up there.
Yeah.
If you're unrolling it down a hill, you know, this bale here is only going to unroll so far.
Right.
So you're going to have that core. So if you're feeding the ring, that's when I meant it doesn't matter.
Right.
So the cows are going to whatever, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Go out there
to the
and
center. Yeah.
Right. So with the soft core baler and this thing set up, you know, 2.5 on our front, on our pressure, we're going to make a really nice soft core.
Right.
I'm not saying you can stick your hand in it, but the airflow in the center of the bale is going to be a lot better than, let's say, a variable baler that's going to start with a really hard core,
right,
and work its way out.
Exactly.
The cows are going to eat the center of this one first compared to next baler we're going to talk.
It's a more natural grazing action for them.
Absolutely.
To go to the center and pull it out.
Absolutely.
And you were talking about bale weights. We have tested, the new VariPack
Right.
against some of the competition.
Right.
And we've had occasions to have this included in the test.
Right.
And it produced heavier bales than some of our major competition.
Absolutely.
So
we didn't reach the VariPack densities and weights, but we were actually getting pretty close.
exactly. Everybody was amazed at the bale weights we were getting out of this. And the livestock prefer this. We've had customers tell us that they'll put a fixed chamber baler versus a variable chamber bale, out in the pasture, and the
Right.
livestock will eat, the fixed chamber bale first. So I think what it is, we have a tendency to make bales that we like when we should be making bales that the livestock likes.
Not the cows or
Yeah,
goats or
so-
whatever we're feeding at that time.
Exactly.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, well, let's move on. Let's move to the right-hand side of the baler and talk about a few more features we have over here. All right, this is about as complicated as this baler gets. Yeah, it's a little more complicated, a little more stuff on the right side than the left side, but first of all, what I would like to explain why there's a little more stuff on this side is if everybody can see this crease right down through here. Everything from here back is what we used to call the KR series balers, and there was a number of different models that we've sold through the years. That's all the same. Bar and chain. We've got the accumulators back, keeping the tailgates shut. Pretty much, we've got the same indicators back here that we had on the KR balers. But if you move forward, this is where we went into the VarioPack series of balers that we came out with. All of this here, the electric motor for the net wrap system, the roller down here, the only belt on the baler we have is right here. This is when we came out with the VarioPack balers, which now is incorporated in some of the balers we still sell today. So with the new feed system, with the new net wrap system, everything, like I said, up here in the front is new. Everything in the back is the same. So I'll go ahead and go through some of this right quick on the net wrap system while I'm here. The eccentric motor, all we have is like a 3-step process. We go down, start the net, we come up to a home position, then we come up and drop the knife. So, like I said, you got a belt here. When the roller comes down and goes on the belt, you have a drive roller that your net's in between, and that's what starts your net wrap. So when you're in the home position, what you're doing is once that comes up, you have a knife that sits right there on that left-handed thread. So as you're counting the number of wraps, and this is how you adjust how much net you put on the bale right here. This is going to actually go left-handed threads all the way over to the end and fall off. And when that falls off, that's when your knife drops. That's when your net cuts and you're ready for the next bale. Very, very simple. And you can always run this manually by hand. So when you actually turn the monitor on, it resets everything every time. So if you're out here and you're checking everything and making sure everything's working, then all you got to do is go back to the front of the baler, turn your monitor off, turn it back on, and it resets everything back to the home position. Very, very simple. One thing that is different on this baler, like I said, everything right here forward is pretty much new. We talked about the feed rotor inside the baler. Now, like I said, once that feed rotor grabs it, it's going to stuff it in that chamber. But sometimes there's something in that feed rotor that don't want to go through the baler. Let's say a rock or a fence post or whatever you have up in there at the time. But it's going to put a very big strain on that feed rotor. So if your slip clutch, I'm sorry, we do not have a slip clutch anymore. We have a ratchet clutch. We updated that for the customers. So that way, instead of a slip clutch going out and smokes your clutch, before you know it and you turn your baler off, you'd already smoked your clutch and you're replacing fiber disc inside your clutch. Or if you burn it so bad it turns black and you got to replace the spring pack and the fiber disc. So what we did on the front of the baler to protect it is we put a ratchet clutch on there. So if you do overload this system, you're going to hear it. You're going to know it because it's going to go make that machine gun sound. And it's going to scare you. It's going to make you want to jump off the tractor and run away. but you'll know to shut the PTO off, something's wrong. So let's say that something went in there so quick and the clutch didn't have time to go off and it locked up that feed rotor. Well, you have a shear bolt here on your feed rotor. So this is the only shear bolt on this baler. And you're like, oh, well, now I'm done for the day. I done sheared the bolt. Well, no, you take this plate off right here and you have 3 extra bolts sitting right inside that plate. So you're safe for that day. You got 2 more chances, or try to get rid of rocks. After that, yeah, you're gonna have to go to the store, go to the dealership. What else is nice about this is you can see the splines here. This is the end of our feed rotor. Let's say we do plug it, we don't shear the bolt, but we don't want to have to crawl on our belly and get up there and dig it out. And it seems like, I don't know about y'all, but every time I plug a baler, there's thorns in the hay. I don't know what it is. I guess the thorns make it extra thick and balls it up, but every time I plug a baler, it seems like I've got thorns in it and I end up bleeding everywhere. But the nice thing about this is we can turn the tractor off, come back here. We've got a tool right here on the side. We can pull this out. We can slide it right here on the feed rotor and we can reverse it manually. We can actually turn that rotor backwards, bring that plug out front or whatever obstacle's in there. Then we can go back to the tractor. We can re-engage the PTO slightly and move that material on through the baler. Very nice to have there. Saves a lot of time. All right. We're going to talk about right here while we're here right quick. We talked about we have hydraulic pickup on this baler. There's no cranking up and down every time we go to the field or every time we want to pull it with the truck. You see a series of holes here. We can fine tune this thing. We can adjust those tines out of the dirt and where it's picking up clean. We don't want those tines in the dirt, wearing them out where we got to replace them, or over time where we're digging in the dirt so long that the tines start wearing back. So we want that pickup as high as we can get it, picking up clean. And we can do that, we can fine tune that on each side. So whatever hole you put it in on this side, you put it in the same hole on the other side. And then that way, the rest of the day, or depending on the crop or what field you're in, all you gotta do is hit your hydraulic lever all day long and you can raise and lower your pickup and you don't have to worry about it. This baler here has manual, and we talked about the density. This baler is set on density. That's what we're looking for. We're not looking for height. It's only going to make a 4x5 bale. I don't care what you try to do, you're only going to kick out one size. But we want to regulate that bale density. So right here, we've got these manual indicators. And what they're registering is the gap back there on the latch. It's registering how much tension or how much gap is between that roll pin and that latch, and then that tells you here on the front of the baler how much density that we have pushing against trying to open that tailgate. That's all that hay wants to do, is open that door. All day long, its goal is to get out of there. And so it's eventually going to put enough pressure and it's going to scream at you, hey, I'm ready to come out. This is what you set me for, let me out. So when we shut the door, these indicators will go down to here and they're going to fall below 0. All right? As we start out, we're going to bale and that indicator is going to be dead center of 0. What that tells me is we have a full bale in the chamber. There's a 4x5 bale in that chamber. And I could tie it off right then and there at dead center of 0. But it's going to be a marshmallow because all we did is fill the chamber. We have not packed anything. So what 1, 2, and 3, and maybe 3.5, what that tells me is how tight I want to pack it. So if you got a guy that wants to try to push 1,100, 1,200 pound bales, he's going to be pushing 3.5. If a guy's happy with 900 pound bales, he might be running around 1.5 or 2, because that's what he prefers. That's what his cows like. They're easier to feed. So it depends on the customer. So, and the way we set that is we've got a little toggle up here and we can adjust that sensor right here. So when those come up and they hit that sensor, which is right here, that's what tells your monitor and it buzzes at you and tells you to hit the toggle switch. And I said toggle switch. I told you this baler is very simple. We're talking about toggle switches. On the monitor here, this is the monitor that comes with the basic. So we got an off and on switch. We've got a net wrap or a twine switch. And right now, most balers are coming in net only. We can special order net and twine, but it seems like right now most people are going to net wrap balers. So we're ordering them mostly net to keep the price down. We also have, this is the toggle switch to start your net. So once that thing buzzes at me, it's screaming, hey, I want out of that baler. Well, I'm gonna reach over there and hold that toggle switch until I see that net wrap take off real fast. Then I'm gonna let it go. And then I'm gonna let the left-handed threads do what it's supposed to do and drop the knife. Also, the last button we have here is pickup or knives. And yes, as an option, you can order this 1600 baler with knives. Like I said, this is a silage baler. You can bale in the rain if you wanted to with this baler. So if you do have knives installed, you can switch back and forth with this little simple monitor here. You can bale all day with your pickup. You see a rock coming and you're like, oh no, I don't want that to go through my knives and tear them up. You can hit your knife button, hit your hydraulic lever, drop your knives out, let that go through, hit your lever, put your knives back up, and you're good to go. We're talking about the net wrap system here in the front, easy load. What I like about that is we can see what's going on. Any given time, all I gotta do is turn my head over my shoulder there and look, and I know what's going on. I know I have to hit that toggle switch, and if that net's moving, hey, I know what's going on there. If I look back and it's still going, hey, why did that knife not drop? I know what's going on at any given time. So that's really nice. A lot of the competition, they put their net wrap in the back of the baler. Well, you have no idea what's going on behind the baler. You know, hey, the monitor says the net wrap's going on. I've been waiting 2 minutes and I ain't got a buzzer saying, hey, it's cut. So then he finally cuts it off, walks back there, oh, the knife never dropped. Well, yeah, and you got a half a roll of net wrap on one bale. Where it's really simple if you can just turn your head, look back, and see what's going on. I'm kind of old school. I like to know what's going on behind me. I even like to see how the hay's flowing into the pickup. I like to look and see what's happening behind me. And we're going to talk about that. There's a lot of guys that don't like to turn around and look behind them. I know guys. I had a guy he said, I can't, my neck won't let me do it. I got a bad neck. And we do have a deluxe baler. The deluxe baler comes with a few extra options, absolutely. But instead of this little simple monitor, you have a nice touchscreen monitor. That one's not touchscreen, but you can put a touchscreen on it. But it does come with where you have multiple bale counters. You can adjust the pressure from the monitor. So if you're running at 65% pressure and you get out there and shake it, you can actually just in the monitor, you can bump that up to 85, 90% just from the monitor. You can adjust the number of wraps. Where here it's manual. On that monitor, you can just right there at a few buttons, you can go from 3 wraps to 4 wraps, with just a few clicks. The deluxe balers also have the oilers, automatic oilers. So a lot of guys like the option that they know in their head, that those chains are getting oil all day long. While I'm out there baling, if I'm doing 50 bales, 200 bales, 500 bales, I know that chain's getting oiled all day long.
Gene, we got a question
Yes,
from the audience. Jason wants to know if we can do cover edge with this baler.
48 inch is all you can do on this.
Okay, well that was the second part of his question. Can you do 51 inch? So.
We can only put 51 inch mesh on one of our balers throughout our whole, and we'll be talking about that here shortly.
The berry pack. Yes,
so everything else you're going to have to do, 48 inch.
Right. Okay.
Now there is a trick that you can do it with 48 inch. I don't know if we can get down in there and look, but your stretcher bar for your net wrap has a black roller on each end.
Yep.
And it's on a cam. So you can adjust it where you can stretch that 48 inch net over the side.
And it makes a beautiful bale. Maybe you can point, we can show the rollers there.
With 48 inch, if you can show that black roller right there, and there's a little bolt right there. So you can adjust that forward or backwards, and that will allow the net wrap to go farther out or closer in. So if you've got your net in there and you got more net going one way or the other, you can fine tune that to however you want it to go. And I hope that answers his question, but I can take a 48-inch roll of net and make it go over the edge.
Very good. Well, thank you for answering that.
Not a problem. So that concludes the Fortima 1600. Yep. So.
Okay, so thank you, Gene. Very informative presentation. I have a question for you.
Sure.
Just what would you agree or disagree with this statement? This baler is the most underrated baler in the industry.
Absolutely.
Yep.
It's a simple baler, very few moving parts. There's only 3 chains on this baler. Mm-hmm. Like I said, you can fix anything on this baler with the tools you got on the tractor. You don't have to hook a laptop up to this baler to go bale hay.
Yep.
Like I said, on this model here, on the basic, it's pretty much everything's manual. Yeah, there's a lot of fine tuning, little secrets that we know how to make things work. But but like I said, it's a tried and true baler. It's the same KR baler that we've sold for forever.
So if a customer's looking for a high performance, versatile, reliable baler, you should go to your nearest Krone dealer and talk to him about this baler and price it. I think you're going to be very surprised by the value that this baler offers. So thank you, Gene. I think we're going to move over to Colin. And okay, so what we're going to do now instead, we're going to talk about the Primos Award while we're getting ready for Colin here. And also registration. Register for the coupon. So. All right.
Hello, Colin back here with you again. I'm going to go ahead and talk about our Varipack. And what I figured is with Varipack being the newest model of round baler in Krone's arsenal, I figured the best way to go about it is to explain how the Varipack came to be in the first place. For years and years, Krone customers have been looking for Krone to come up with a belt baler. And it came across a lot, and Germany's engineers decided to make that a reality. They took the concerns and the features that the consumers of North America wanted, and they built a 4-belt baler that is versatile, and it is molded specifically for the North American market. Before I get into the Varipack, I should talk about the different models that the Varipack is available in. One model is the V165, and that is our 4x5 foot baler, capable of making a bale up to 5.5 feet. And the V190, which I'm standing in front of now, which is our 4x6 baler, capable of making a bale up to 74 inches. Now that we've gotten the models out of the way, I want to talk about I want to go around the baler, kind of show everybody the functions and how this baler operates. So we'll start off here up by the drawbar. We'll bring you back around here. And where we're going to start at is the hydraulic controls of this baler. We got 3 hoses here: red hose for the tailgate, yellow hose for the hydraulic pickup and the drop floor, and also the blue hose for our continuous flow return. Just in front of that, we have our ISO-bus plug. This baler does come ISO-bus ready. Moving just down here in front of the baler, we'll take a moment to talk about the monitor that's included with the Varipack. This is the CCI 500. This is the standard model. And what I'll do now is I'll have them roll a clip of the monitor operating. It is a color display touch screen, as well as manual buttons on the top and the bottom. This monitor is available in, there are 3 different models available for this baler. The CCI 500, which comes standard, the CCI 800, which is a 6x8 inch touchscreen model, and the CCI 1200, which is a 10x12 touchscreen model. The 1200 model is capable of displaying both your machine functions as well as a live feed camera if your baler is equipped with it. Moving on from the monitor, we'll look just behind it at one of the VeriPak safety features. If you're going to perform maintenance inside of the bale chamber, what we recommend you do is you raise up the tailgate, you come around here to the back, you flip this valve to the locked position, and that hydraulically locks the tailgate into a safe, workable condition. Moving on, coming around the left side of the baler here, we're going to talk about our oiling system. This is a mechanically driven, shaft-driven oil pump that comes off of the main gearbox from the center. Inside, we've got 3 different adjustments for adjusting our flow rate on each one of our chains. This helps to make precise adjustments for how much oil you want on your chain to help extend your maintenance intervals. Just in front of that, we have our 2-gallon oil reservoir. They wanted to make this reservoir large enough to create an effective maintenance interval so that you're not getting off of your tractor and having to refill your oiler every 15 minutes. So they wanted one that would last you all day. Moving on, just behind that, we have our tying system. This control block is the main brains of the net wrap feed and tying system. It is an accumulator-driven hydraulic block powered by electric over hydraulic 12-volt coils. These accumulators are charged up passively. When the rear tailgate comes up and it hits its upper limit, there's an internal check valve that bypasses those cylinders and recharges your accumulators to create enough pressure for your next high cycle. Moving down to the hydraulic cylinder, you move back, and that hydraulic cylinder controls nothing but mechanical linkages and levers. There are no electric motors on this feed system or this cutting system. This is a completely mechanical system other than the electric over hydraulic coils. What this does is it creates a maintenance-free, highly reliable, set it and forget it type system. Looking up, we'll move on to another maintenance interval item, and much like Gene pointed out on the F1600, this baler comes equipped with modular grease banks on both sides of the balers. These grease lines feed every enclosed heavy-duty bearing on each side of the baler. This prevents you, like Gene said, from climbing up on top of the baler and having to get covered in chaff after a long day. Nobody wants to do that. Moving up, we point out the density system. This hydraulic control block is powered and controlled by a PWM 12-volt coil. This coil is the brains of the high-density system, and what it allows is the variable density system that makes this machine the VeriPak. This baler is capable of baling in 3 different density zones: core, central, and outer diameters. And this coil is what helps to control that. As a whole, this system is a maintenance-free, self-isolated hydraulic system. This has no connection between the density system and the tractor itself. That eliminates any possibility of contamination and creates a long maintenance-free working environment.
Colin, on the variable density, that's really a nice feature on this baler. So basically what a customer can do if he wants to make a very If a customer wants to make a, say for example, a bale that's easy to spear, you can turn the center of the bale density to like 0 or 10%, and that's what most people run it.
Yeah, you have some guys doing 10, 20%, but somewhere in the lower numbers to create that soft core, like you said.
And the intermediate core, you can run higher. So what do most people run, that 60%?
Yeah, 40 to 60% on the intermediate one, and then generally you get around 75% on that outer diameter to keep that shape of that bale.
Right. So a customer can basically customize the density in 3 zones on this baler. And that's really been a good feature on this machine. The density on the outer core, what did you say, usually 70, 80%?
Yeah, something like that.
Yeah, and it's very difficult on this baler to run it, if you run it 100%, you can't put enough net on it.
No, we got guys trying to do that, running 5, 6 layers of net, and it's still busting it when it comes out.
As soon as it hits the ground, it has so much density that it basically just explodes. So.
Yeah.
But that is a nice feature.
Yeah, and much like Gene was talking about earlier with that soft core and being more palatable for cattle, this machine allows you to customize your density zones for any customer that you may have. That soft core that allows good airflow creates a good product. Or if you're going by tonnage and you want this baler to put out the densest, heaviest bales it possibly can, you can ramp those up and make them customizable to whatever you want. Getting back to the baler here, we'll move our way back. Just above this shaft here, you'll notice this plate here. This is a 2021 model baler. On every 2022 model baler, this baler is going to come standard with scraper kits for the drive rollers. This is going to help to reduce buildup on the roller and create a cleaner, more uniform belt pattern on the rollers. We're going to work our way back here towards closer towards the rear of the baler. We'll stop here at another one of those safety features. On the 2021 and 2022 models, every Veripack comes standard with a 3-gallon refillable, rechargeable fire extinguisher. Just above this fire extinguisher, we'll talk about another component of the hydraulic system, and that is our single action tailgate cylinders. The best feature about this tailgate and what sets this baler apart in the market is our quick tailgate. This tailgate will open and close in 5 seconds. What it does is it comes up at full speed. Once it hits the top, the bale drops out, hits the ramp, and rolls back. When it comes down to close, inside this cylinder is built in a soft closed setup. And so that tailgate will come down fast, and then the last 6 or 8 inches, it slows right down to latch nice and soft. You'd think with a 5-second that tailgate coming down, you're going to hear that bang, that tailgate hitting the back of your baler, and you're going to feel it in the cab, but not with the Veripack.
Another advantage of a single action cylinder, you don't run the risk of warping your tailgate if you happen to close it on a bale.
Absolutely.
So
yes.
so that is a plus with a single action cylinder on the tailgate.
Yeah, the biggest problem you're going to have is you've set the tailgate down on the bale. It's just the belt's tearing up the net. You don't cause any damage to your own baler whatsoever. Moving on with this, we'll come around here to the back of the baler. This is the heart and soul of the Veripack. What we'll do is we'll start here with the bale ramps. In each one of these bars, there are 3 holes. One for a 5-foot bale, one for a 6-foot bale, and one for soft ground. Moving on forward up from that, we've got our 3 rollers here. This bottom roller, much like Gene pointed out, is a power-driven roller that helps to keep that bale rotating inside the chamber. The 2 upper rollers help to compact and keep the hay coming in against the outside of the bale. On the bottom roller here, we've got our spiral weldments, and what this does is if you got a slug or an abnormality that comes into the baling chamber, these spiral rolls, as that bale goes around, it's going to take that hay and spread it out evenly to create a nice clean outer diameter on that bale for a consistent, beautiful looking product. Moving on up here, we've got an animation showing a little bit about the belt system. The Varipack belts are unique in the fact that there's only 4 of them, and they are 275 millimeters wide or 10 3/4 inches. What makes these unique from the competition is that these belts are endless. There are no laces on this belt. There's no need to come in here and replace your pins every couple hundred bales. There is a 0 maintenance interval on these belts. Now, what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and work our way back around the other side of this baler. And the first thing that we're going to start off with is the high flotation tires. These high flotation tires are unique to the Varipack model. Like I said earlier, the engineers in Germany, they wanted to create a baler that was unique and specific to the North American market. So they wanted to put a tire setup on here that was going to be able to hold up to the terrain anywhere in North America. These tires are capable of crossing gaps from circle irrigation systems, and it is going to absorb impact for the pickup, creating a smoother operating condition going across the field. We're going to move on from here, just in front of the tire on the sidewall here. And like I pointed out earlier, well, I didn't point it out earlier, but I'm going to point it out now. You've got a hydraulic control block here. And what this hydraulic control block controls is the drop floor in this unit. This is an electric over hydraulic system. There is no electric motor that operates this drop floor. If you look just down below it, inside, we have a hydraulic cylinder on either side of the baler. And that hydraulic cylinder is going to control the drop floor. This drop floor is an effortless system. On the monitor, you've got an icon on there that's going to show your pickup. When you hit that button, it's going to switch over to your drop floor. You're going to then use the same lever as in the cab as you would to pick up your Easy Flow pickup head and drop that drop floor down. Now you can fire back up your PTO and it'll pull that slug back into the baling chamber. At that point, you pull the lever again, suck that drop floor up, and you continue on baling and you never left the cab.
So Colin, I know you've been involved in testing and development of this baler. Off script, how does it work?
It works fantastic. I mean, I've been in the field a few times with customers, and especially just even going out on demos. The first time these guys use this baler, you know, if you know, the natural instinct when you're trying out a baler with this much credibility is you want to try and go as fast as you can. So they test it, they push it, and they come across the field, and you know, every once in a while you'll get one where you get a slug in there, and it stops it up, and you hear that ratchet clutch that Gene talked about.
Yep.
And you tell them, all right, just kick off the PTO. You're going to hit that button on your monitor, pull that lever. That drop floor is going to come down, and as soon as you turn on that PTO, it sucks that slug right into the baling chamber, and you're on your way from that point.
Yeah, we've taken them out before, and you know, we've tried to intentionally plug them up just to demonstrate the drop floor. And by the time you plug them up, they're plugged up.
Oh yeah.
You know, so the drop floor is an excellent feature on this baler.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. So coming forward, I'm going to open up this panel here, just talk a little bit about our heavy-duty chain and sprocket system. So we'll come up here on the side here, and we'll point out, just like Gene on the F1600, Kron is infamous for making a low-maintenance, high-strength, durable product. We have large spur gears, 100 chain, to help create a low-maintenance, long-life, lasting drive system. Coming out here to the outside, we have our pickup drive. And down here on the bottom, to protect the pickup, we have a dog clutch. You get into something and your pickup comes to a stop, rather than burning up any sort of friction clutch, you got your dog clutch in here. It'll pop a few times. You stop the PTO, either back up or get out and see what's going on with it. And once you resolve the issue, you take off. You don't have to reset anything. There's no shear pin. There's no friction dispersion. You just continue on your way. Coming back up here, point out this number 2. Number 2 here, like I mentioned earlier on the oiler, each chain has an independent oiler that you can adjust the quantity so that you can get the most maintenance interval out of your chains. On each oiler, you have a brush system. These brushes make continuous, constant contact with the chain. What this does is to help to directly apply that oil straight to the chain. And at the same time, brush off any debris, grass, dirt that gets built up on there so that we don't have any buildup inside of our chain sprockets. Moving just a little bit forward and a little bit down, I'd like to talk about the pickup a little bit. On each side, you've got a multitude of adjustments. Much like Gene said earlier about the F1600, you want to use this to set your tine height off the ground. The Varipack offers a multitude of adjustments to tailor your pickup to the ground conditions that you have to get the most out of it. Coming around to the front here, I'll touch briefly on the pickup. This pickup operates camless the exact same way that Gene said on the F1600. We get 30% higher throughput out of it. And on the Varipack model, both V165 and V190, this pickup comes in an 85-inch width. That's 7 feet 1 inch. Coming up here, we'll talk a little bit about our convenience offers. So on either the right side and the left side, Kron does have a foldable quick release step, so that when you come up here to feed your net wrap into your system, you have an easy step up way so that you're not leaning over the machine, you're not hurting yourself, getting yourself dirty. It's a quick and convenient way to get up in your net tying system. Just above that, talking about convenience, we'll talk about our net loading tray. You run out of net, easy thing, you pull the lever, flip this down like it is, you walk over to one of our net holders, you grab your new roll, pop this guard off of here, you slide that net roll up in there. Once you replace the end cap, you go ahead, flip your tray back up, pull down on your press bar, and you're done. This is a quick and easy way to load your net without breaking your back, and they had that in mind when they thought about our North American customers. Trell, I've pretty well come to the end of this. If you got any questions or...
Well, yes, let's get Gene in here. I know both of you guys have spent a lot of time with this baler in development, testing, doing demonstrations and everything. So just a quick question for both of you, and I'll ask you the same question. Going off script, what is your thought or opinion on this baler?
Honestly, I think I'm a little bit biased on this, but I think that this baler is a huge win for the North American market. When they built this baler and they engineered it, they had the consumer's thoughts, interests, and concerns in mind, and it is specifically tailored for North America.
And you really need to see this baler out in the field and see it perform to appreciate it.
It's impressive.
So Gene, thank you, Colin. So Gene, the same question to you.
You know, we've been looking for this for 30 years.
Absolutely.
And I think we asked for a product and they overbuilt it really. I mean, we asked for a certain thing and they said, we'll give you something, but I think they outdid themselves a little bit. But the throughput of this baler and the densities we're getting out of it is amazing.
It's unbelievable.
It's impressive. It really is.
Yes. We're getting ready to take just a short video break and we're going to move over to the large square balers. So thank you both guys. You did a great job a lot of features, advantages, and benefits of the baler. So we appreciate it.
Not a problem. Thank you, Tro.
Welcome back, everybody. Levi and I are here at the Big Packs. Grafton, come on in here. We had to get Grafton suited up with his microphone. In the interest of time, guys, I'm going to try to cut short all the good, funny jokes that I always tell. Folks, I've got Grafton Rabin here. I've got Levi Taylor here. They're going to tell y'all all you want to know about Big Packs. I will also encourage you to please send them some questions. If you have anything to ask them, they'll be glad to answer them. Levi, if you don't mind, introduce yourself. When you're done, Grafton, you just take over, introduce yourself, and y'all have at it. I'm going to get out of the way.
All right, thank you, David. Yeah, hello, my name is Levi Taylor. I'm a service rep for Krone out of Virginia. Glad you guys are joining us tonight to learn about these big pack balers. We're proud of them. We like to support them, and we'd like to tell you what we know about them. Grafton?
Excellent, thank you, Levi. My name is Grafton Rabin. I'm cover the territory for Georgia, Florida, South Carolina, and I guess we'll go ahead and kick this thing off in the interest of time, Mr. Taylor. So the first thing we would like to do before we get into this too deep is we'd like to show you guys the product offerings that we have for the Big Pack large square baler line. So we're going to go ahead and throw up an animation for you guys to see, just a little presentation that goes through what offerings we do have. So we're going to start with a couple of models that are exclusive to the Krone line, the Big Pack 870 multi-bale HDP being high density press. Then we have the Big Pack 890, which is going to be a traditional 3x3 square baler. From there, we're going to go into the 1270, which is going to be a multi-bale option and a 4x2.5 variation. And then we're going to get into the bread and butter of the Big Pack line, which is going to be the 3x4 models, where we offer the 1290 standard, which is what we have behind us. And then we also have the 1290 HDP. In addition to a 3x4 model, we also have a premium 3x4, the only kind in the world. It's a HDP2. And then we also still continue to make a traditional 4x4 baler for some of our western region markets, the guys out in Idaho, Kansas, those areas. Still a very popular baler for them. So behind me, we do have a 1290 XC high speed. In some of those product descriptions, you may have noticed HS, which stands for high speed for our product line. And then we also had XC, which stands for 26 knife cutter, which is what this 1290 behind me has. And then you may have also seen VC, which means Varicut, and that will be a 51 knife option for our cutting machines. So in order to kick off talking about the features and benefits of the product, we want to start here at the front. And one thing we pride ourselves on here at Krone is we boast that we have a very large diameter and very heavy flywheel. The reason we do this is we want the baler to do the work, not the tractor. So having the larger flywheel and the way it's designed puts all the inertia to the exterior of the flywheel, the outside diameter. And with the weight of it, we're able to use that centripetal force to really move that plunger efficiently. So what that does for the customer, for you guys, is it lowers your fuel cost. It's a little more fuel efficient, and it also requires less horsepower to use the baler. As far as creature comforts go, customer settings, you don't get the rocking motion with the Big Pack that you get with some of the other competitive products with the smaller flywheels, because the plunger is not constantly hammering the tractor against the bale. Very, very nice creature comfort. Something else you may notice on the plunger over here on my right shoulder, or excuse me, on the flywheel on my right shoulder, is we have a black clutch. So that's going to segue me into the fact that we don't use any major chain drives on the big pack. The only chain-driven entity on the unit is going to be the pickup itself. We clutch protect everything except for the needle yoke. If you can figure out how to put a clutch on a needle instead of using a shear bolt, let us know. We'll probably pay you for it. It'd be pretty cool. One thing this clutch protection allows us to do is get rid of a lot of the shear bolts that some of the competitive machines have. So I think the nearest, the fewer number of bolts a competitor have, maybe 5, versus we have the 1. So it really minimizes the downtime for just nitpicky random stuff. So the clutch on the flywheel is designed to protect the tractor from any issues that may occur on the baler, so you don't take out your tractor PTO. And then it also has the overrunning clutch on it, so it'll idle her down without any damage to the tractor when you shut the machine off. Over my left shoulder, you'll start seeing some of the drive systems that come out of the main gearbox that the flywheel is mounted to. So on this side, we have the drive that goes to the knotter system up top, and then we also have the drive that goes to the variable filling system, the VFS, down here on the bottom. On the opposite side of the machine, coming out of the main gearbox, we go to the cutting rotor on this machine as well as the pickup drive, okay? With that said, I think I would like to turn it over to Mr. Taylor.
Okay.
And he's going to discuss a little bit about the crop flow.
All right, thanks, Grafton. All right, if you'd go ahead and show our first video here that shows the animation of the crop being fed into the baler. We'll point out some of the key components. So we've got our windrow being fed into our chamber. We've got a large diameter roller wind guard that basically pre-compresses that crop to help start the process of compacting into a bale. It goes into our camless pickup, assisted by our over assistant auger there, active pickup, into our rotor, and showing our cutting knives there. So each knife is individually spring protected on this baler. So if you do feed a foreign object in, it's spring loaded, it pops back out of the way and goes back into cutting position without causing any damage. All right, great, thanks. So let's look a little closer here. So on this baler, of course we've got our hitch here at the front that goes to the tractor. And you'll notice we've got an arrangement of bolts here on the back of our hitch. And basically we'll want to be able to adjust this baler to fit your tractor as perfectly as possible. So we want this baler to run true and level through the field. What that's going to do is make sure you've got a nice wide open throat to feed that material into the chamber. If it's too low, you'll be pinched down and your capacity will be limited. So also we adjust our carrier bearing or our center bearing here that's in the PTO drive line, so you can optimize the angles back to your flywheel that Grafton was talking about there. All right, so here we go. So we've got a roller wind guard. You can see that it is not a driven roller. It's driven when it comes in contact to the windrow. So you want to adjust that with these chains on the side to optimize it to your windrow. You want it to hit the top of the windrow, but you don't want the windrow to go over it, or you're likely to bulldoze a little bit, and that'll cause you some feeding issues. You can see our nice wide pickup here in the back, camless pickup. We're able to turn a little faster that way. There's fewer moving parts. That's pretty handy. And we've got a powered feed auger here above that's helping to force that material back into the rotor. So giving you high capacity. And we'll notice here on our pickup that my pickup gauge wheels are not on the ground. So we're not carrying the weight of the pickup on the wheels. We have stops on each side of the baler, right in here, that you adjust to set the height of your pickup. So your gauge wheels are just intended when you go through a rough spot in the field or some other situation where you need to raise that pickup up. That's what the gauge wheel is intended for. Here's a hydraulic cylinder that raises the pickup, and a small spring here for some flotation. So again, these stops are on both sides of the pickup. Coming back into our knife tray that we saw in the video. So on this baler, we've got the knife tray dropped down and slid out so we can inspect it here and see what's going on. So once you slide it back in to engage the knives, you simply take your mechanical tool here and just roll the knives up. So here I've rolled half of the knives in this knife tray up. So that's going to give me about a 4-inch cut length of my crop. If I want a shorter crop length, I can roll both sections of knives up. And so we have a tray on both sides of the baler, so it gives you a lot of adjustability on how short you want to cut and process your crop. To service the knives, of course, we're going to retract them. And we're going to drop our knife tray and slide it out here to where we can access it. And then we just release our knife lock, and then we can just raise the knife up out of the tray to service it. You can see we've got a serrated edge on one side and a smooth edge on the other. So if I did hit that rock we saw in the video and I needed to sharpen that knife a little bit, I would roll it over and put a grinder on the flat edge, blowing the heat back towards the base of the blade so I don't overheat the tip. And so once I get all my blades serviced and back in cutting condition, just put them back in. I just want to make sure I lock them in place like that, and then they won't slide off of that knife shaft. They're just controlled by your system. So it's a very handy system. Again, you can set your cut lengths any way you want them. You can put blanks in if you don't want as many knives. So it's a very handy system, and we have a place to store your extra knives as well. All right. Did I miss anything, Grafton? On the cutting
I think
system?
that sounded mighty fine to me, sir.
All right. See if you can tell us about the feed system.
All right.
Pre-compression system.
So one of the biggest features that sets Krone apart from all the competition is we have what we call the VFS, the variable filling system. So with most competitors, they're going to use a feeding system that has 2 or 3 stuffer arms, and they're constantly going to be trying to catch up and move the hay into front of the plunger. And what that does is it creates a lot of space between the hay and between one feeder arm and the next. So you get a lot of inconsistencies in your flake when it goes in front of the plunger and packs into the bale. So what Krone decided to do is we wanted to make sure we had a finger in the crop at all times. So we've got an animation here we can play for you guys. We'll go ahead and kick that off on just a short loop. And in this animation, what you'll see is as the crop is coming into the baler from either the feed rotor or the cutting rotor, we're going to have the feeder arms constantly in the crop. And once we are able to create the flake size that we like, we're going to have a stuffer arm that comes up from the pre-chamber, lifts the material out in front of the plunger. The plunger is going to come and clean that material off. If we look on the other side, how this system works is there is a pawl and a roller. Once that sensing rake moves back, that roller is going to disengage from the pawl. We're going to rotate the cam to where the stuffer arm is going to go up, go back into the home position, and then the system will resume feeding in a normal pattern without lifting the material back in front of the plunger. So very, very well designed system, very, very reliable system. And I gotta say, one of the biggest things we see other than consistency in our flakes and in our bale is we are really able to maximize the capacity of the machine between the 30% increased speed on the camless pickup with the aggressive speed of the VFS. We're really able to move through the field about as fast as you want to drive. Okay. So moving from the VFS, we're going to go up in front of the plunger. We've got a very heavy plunger on all of our product lines. And from there, we're going to move back into the tying process. So Levi's going to talk a little bit about the tying process. You want to take over that, sir?
Appreciate that, Grafton. So yes, we're going to talk about our needles and our tying process here. So you can see here's that feeding rake that he mentioned on the VFS. And so that's what's spring loaded as the flake forms, pushes that back and releases the mechanism as we saw in the video. So then we go to our tying process. Krone has an exclusive feature. It's called multi-bale, and that's available on our 870 models and our 1270 models. So go ahead and roll that video so we can see a little more details about what this multi-bale system does for us. So you can see the multi-bale system on those two frame sizes allows you to make multiple bales inside of a large bale package. So in the video here, you're going to see that in the bale that came out of this 870, we're going to have multiple small bales inside of that. So basically we're putting twine around groups of flakes as well as the complete baler. So that gives you a package that with 2 twine on it that you can handle much like you would a small square bale. It's not identical to a small square bale, but it gives you an option. So you can make a bale that's 2 feet long, foot long, 4 feet long, however you want it inside of that larger bale package. So it's a very nice feature on the Krone balers. Again, it's on the 1270 and the 870 balers. Something we're very proud of here at Krone. All right. Guess we'll talk about the density system.
Actually, Levi, I failed to talk about one of the main components of the VFS, the clutch here on this side.
The clutch drum,
So,
okay.
My apologies, we're going to backtrack just a touch.
Okay.
One of the things that a lot of us try to tell salesmen or even customers in the field when they're operating the machine for the first time or on a demonstration is we really want to try to plug the machine. The reason for that is because we don't have the shear bolts, when the machine plugs, this large clutch on this side of the VFS is going to disengage, so the VFS will stop turning, but the plunger will still be allowed to move freely. So what that means is you're going to get a heck of a racket. If you've got an older tractor, you'll probably hear it from the cab. If you've got a newer tractor or one with a pretty comfortable cab, you're going to get an alarm on the terminal, so you may not hear it on the baler itself. When that happens, don't panic. The first thing you need to do is just stop the machine as quickly as possible. So hit the brakes on the tractor, come to a stop, and you're going to take the engine RPMs on the tractor and drop them all the way down. So when you drop those engine RPMs all the way down, it gives this clutch time to try to re-engage the internal cams. As that happens, that stuffer arm is going to come up and it is going to shake a little bit, and it will slowly move that blockage out of the pre-chamber in front of the plunger and into the bale. Once that happens, the clutch resets to where these 2 dots will line up here and here, and then you can go on about the baling process. And that is really, really a huge creature comfort that a lot of people overlook. So,
awesome.
With that said, I think I would like to move on back to the density system.
All right.
So,
I'd like to give a little more details about that multi-bale system. So we've got a second video here to show about the multi-bale. So in this video here, you can see that we've got our star wheel there that measures the length of the bale, and then the blue twine coming up are my multi-bale twines. So that's around the smaller bale package. So to do that, we basically split our needle yoke. So you can see my multi-bale needles just went up into the chamber, and they tied the twine around that smaller package. And when I get to the overall length, I'll lock my needle yokes together, and then I will complete the bale. So you can see here the yokes locked together behind that rear wheel. Now when I do my next tine cycle, I bring all my needles up and complete my first bale and start my second bale. So it's pretty inventive, pretty ingenious, pretty smart system, and it does a good job for us. All right, Grafton, let's talk about the density.
Awesome. Thank you. So one of the other things we like to boast about that's a lot different on the Krone versus everybody else is our chamber size. So we've got these flaps, top and bottom, sides and top, that in most of our models, especially the high density press models, the HDPs are a lot longer than the competitors. And what that allows us to do is to put more pressure with friction inside the package. So how we do that is we have a solid yoke that goes all the way around the baler. And we have cylinders that are able to apply pressure directly to these flaps instead of using a cylinder that maybe tries to pull the flaps together. And that really gives us a good transfer of power to the bale instead of losing parasitic load somewhere else. Another thing you might be able to see inside the chamber, I'm not sure how well it's going to show, but the flaps are tapered. And what that the reason for that is as that bale compresses, we want to make sure that all the edges are square. So we're able to maintain a very nice tight square package and even materials such as wheat straw, corn stalks, things like that, something that's really spongy. So that's a really cool thing unique to Krone, and much like everything, it serves a very, very good purpose. So once we get done tying the bale. Levi kind of went through the tying process on the multi-bale. Once that has happened, we've started our next bale. Our bale is going to come off and it's going to hit our tailgate. One of the things that comes standard on all the Krone balers is we have scales on our tailgates. So if you want to know what the bale weight is coming out of the field, we are accurate in the field while you're operating within 2%. Most of the time, it's more accurate than that, but at the worst, we're still within 2% accuracy. And that is something that a lot of guys really like when they're trying to load trucks out, especially for export market guys. Pretty nice feature. Now, to the density systems, we've got two modes that we want to operate in. We have a manual mode, so when you start your day, get in the tractor first thing in the morning, you're going to see that your terminal starts in manual mode. Once you start baling, you're going to swap that over to automatic mode, and Levi's going to take the terminal here over to our side and explain that process a little bit and tell you why we do that. Levi?
Thanks, Grafton. So yeah, so when you're starting with an empty chamber, you want to be in manual mode and you're shooting for a target pressure. So that onboard hydraulic system is creating a pressure regardless of how much material is in the chamber. So what that does is gives you a starting point for making your bale. So you want to shoot for what you think might be a normal pressure. So our monitor here is set up to achieve 754 PSI of pressure in the density system. So you use that until you get the first couple bales through the chamber, and then you're going to change it to the automatic mode. And now we can see that it's got a percentage, a load percentage, and that's measuring the load of the connecting rods that is putting on the piston to compress the hay. So that then you're going to get a more consistent bale through different baling conditions. So if you get to a wet spot in the field or a place where the hay's a little tougher, it's going to be a little harder to compress, so it's going to take more load under the same amount of pressure. So we'll back our pressure off and maintain a constant load as the conditions change. And inversely on the other side, as the hay dries, it's a little easier to compress, takes less force. So to get the same weight in that bale, you need to run your pressure up. So that's what the automatic mode does, and it really improves the efficiency and the overall performance of the baler. So on our monitor here, you can see we've got our load. If I wanted to change that load, just touch the screen there and change those numbers. We've got our bale weights displayed here. Our moisture in the bale is displayed, as well as our PTO speed. So it's really a nice monitor. Shows you a lot of the features and what's going on with the baler. All right. Did I miss anything, Grafton?
No, sir. I think you did a phenomenal job. Thank you for that explanation. That really kind of, I think, might have cleared that up a little bit.
All right, David, do we have any questions?
We actually do have a question.
Okay.
I was going to try to interject here, but I wanted you to finish up your demonstration of the monitor. So Jason has asked us, we're going back to the multi-bale feature.
Okay.
So Jason has asked, how does the smaller bales, so that would be the multi-bales within the big bale, how do they compare to normal small square bales?
Right. So it's a smaller package. You can handle it, but it's not going to be like a small square bale. Basically, you're putting twine around flakes of hay. So it's not a normal small square bale shape. I wouldn't want to cut my multi-bale, the twines, and have my multi-bales and try to restack those in a barn. But to get the package to a spot where I'm going to, maybe move it around a little bit, put it on a cart or something like that, it works good. Again, we've got on the two models, the 870, which is our 2.5 by 3 foot baler, and then we have it on our 1270, which is 2.5 by 4. And so it doesn't act like a small square bale, but it's a really nice feature. I've had guys that tell me, hey, I need to feed 4 foot of an 8 foot bale to this group of cattle. So he makes multi-bales, 2 4 foot bales in his 8 foot package, and it suits his system real well. So hopefully that answered your question, Jason.
Yeah, Grafton, you want to weigh in on that one? You think Levi got it?
I think Levi did fantastic.
He did a great job, and we see, Jason, we see a lot of folks that are interested in this multi-bale feature. They want to completely replace their small square baler. Unfortunately, you're not going to completely replace your small square baler because, like Levi said, you can't stack them. You can't make it, me buy it, me go stack it in my barn in the small bales like you could a small square out of a small square baler. However, the efficiency you gain in using a big square by far outweighs any of the hurdles that you got to cross in dealing with those small squares. So it really is a good question. All right, guys, are we about finished up here with big packs?
That's all.
That's all we got. That's all I have, sir.
I got a few questions that I would like to ask, and it's obvious to our viewers that you guys are very knowledgeable about big pack balers. It's also obvious to our viewers by now that I'm not as knowledgeable as you guys are. So for me, I got to try to put all this back into a little bit simpler package. So I just got a few questions, if y'all don't mind, just kind of to focus us back in and maybe hit some highlights. This is a tough question for these guys to answer. They've already been given my permission to be 100% honest. They know what I'm getting ready to ask them. But I'll start with Grafton, and then Levi can answer the same question. But this is a big baler that I think you'll both agree sees a lot of heavy use. We know things break. We know there's going to be maintenance. We know things, the way these balers are used and what we expect them to do. So if you're going to say and be completely honest with our viewers, what do you think is the weakest link, or what is a weak link on the baler?
I would say for me, it's lack of maintenance. So if a customer has an expectation that he never has to put grease in the auto lube system, or if he never has to inspect bearings for a winter check, things like that, you're asking for trouble. So to me, it would be kind of like maintaining your pickup truck. You know, if you go 100,000 miles and don't change your oil, you're gonna have problems. So as long as you take care of her, she will take care of you.
What do you think, Levi?
The weakest component, it's going to be that one shear pin that we haven't managed to get rid of yet. So there's one shear pin left on the needle yoke, and that's probably a weak link.
Y'all all know I like jokes and like to kid around. Well, Levi told that one, and I got to confess, I just got it just like 30 seconds ago, so we had to tell it again, so I'd get the punchline. The weak link is supposed to be the weak link. Shear bolt's supposed to be the weak link. All right, guys. Another question that sometimes we get from our customers, you guys answer this: will it bale all crops?
I'll let you go first on this one.
All crops? It will. It's going to perform better in certain crops than it does others. But yeah, it's a versatile baler. We do have, if you're focusing on corn fodder, baling corn stalks, we've got some kits and things and adjustments that some of the more experienced technicians can make to really help it perform. So yeah, I think it'll bale about all crops with some adjustments.
I agree. I've personally baled corn stalks in snow, and if you can do that, you can do just about anything. So.
It's a very versatile baler, and it's pretty much up to the task whenever we put it in the field. What's the feature, Levi, you go first on this one if you don't mind. What's the feature that helps this baler the most? In other words, what about these balers, these big pack balers, should convince our customers to buy a Krone large square?
It's that variable fill system, the VFS, and because it lets you adjust the flake density with a spring here on the side, adjust that flake density so you get a really nice top fill, you get a real nice bale shape about every time. So I'd say the variable fill system, that's what sets our flake and gets us going.
Grafton?
Well, you took my answer.
There you go.
So I would say for me, other than the VFS, it's probably going to be all the clutch protection on the system. That is really probably the undersung hero of the baler. It's a really underappreciated feature for most people until it's 110 degrees in Arizona and you're digging a bale out. So that is probably by far my favorite feature because I'm lazy, I guess. I don't know.
but Grafton, you and I have some personal history with the clutch protection systems.
We do.
Grafton kind of trained me on the big square operation, and he told me as I was operating, he said, whatever you do, if it plugs, do not turn off the PTO. Well, it just so happens that I plugged it, and new guy called Grafton on his cell phone. Grafton's off doing other things, being productive, and I said, hey, Grafton, I plugged it. He said, don't turn off the PTO. And tell him exactly what you told me, Grafton.
If you turn off the PTO, I'm not going to come out and help you dig the baler out.
Yeah.
Now, what you failed to tell them was much like the Rakes story, this was at a farm show.
Yes, it was. And I want to set the record straight. I still hear stories from folks at the farm show that says, remember that Krone big square and that idiot operator tore that baler all to pieces? Let me set the record straight. I didn't tear it all to pieces. when the clutch goes off, it sounds like the guts are coming out.
It does.
However, the clutch is simply doing its job. So I didn't tear it all to pieces, but I did plug it up. I did turn off the PTO. So then, yes, Grafton was right. I had, I can't say that word, but blank and elbows in the chamber of the baler to unplug the baler.
But I did come help you.
Yeah, but he did come and help me. I'd just like to wrap up Big Packs. Thank you guys, great job. But for me, for our Big Pack balers, speed, consistency, most importantly, dependability, and support. And when I say the support, our service techs, Grafton has recently came over to the dark side of sales from service, but both of these guys can service and support our customers, support these balers, and that's really, with the features we have, backed up with the support of our guys here, these balers do a wonderful job for us. So I think we are just about to wrap up for the evening. I'm going to give these guys leisure to take off and go grab a glass of water or something and take a break, and we'll have a short video, and then Trell and I will come back and we'll close everything up.
Thanks, guys.
Thanks.
Hey everyone, we're back for the last time, and David, I don't know about you, but I'm a little sad about that.
I really can't believe it's over.
I know. It's a great time. Nothing better than hanging out with customers and talking about equipment and everything. So we'd like to have comments from you guys. If you'd like to see more of this, we can certainly do more. If you have any suggestions, ways to make it better, we'd like to hear that also. David, do you have any thoughts on the event? I think it's been great.
I really appreciate everyone's help. I mentioned last night to all the folks that I've had to sleep with one eye open to keep these guys at bay a little bit. They've all been harassing me about helping with this, but I'm blessed to be working for a good company and have good teammates to work with. They've all come through for me, and it's very difficult to make me look good, but I feel like they made me look good, made the company look good. I'm just very proud to wear this crown on my shirt.
Awesome. Well, thanks, David. We do have the winner for the Primos, and it is Jason Onago. And Jason, we'll get that pre-delivered, get it lubed up, fueled up, and get it out to you. So congratulations, and with that, we're going to sign off, and thanks everyone for joining us. It's been a great time.
Thanks very much.